chat. Before we get started, I need your help. What looks better? Okay, so I'm currently 20% brightness. I'm going to go to 30. Okay, what's better? Put your answer in the live stream chat. This is 30%. This is 20%. Put your answer for brightness. Then we're going to move to color intensity. I got another lighting. My lighting's always sucked, always. So I need your help. Color intensity. Right now it's 30. I'm going to go to 40. So that's 40. And this is 30. So what's better for color intensity? 30. This is 30. This is 40. Back to 30. Okay, so we have, it's unanimous for brightness, 20%. Let me write this down. Myron, you should be writing this down, but you're too lazy. I know you're a progressive, but that's no excuse for being lazy. Brightness, 20%. Okay, and color intensity was between 30 and 40. We've got 30, 40, 40, 35, 30, 40. Ooh, I look like Trump at 40, but is that a compliment? Okay, hang on. Everybody said brightness at 20, so I leave it at 20. Let's go to 35. So right now this is 35. This is 30 for color intensity. Is there any difference? 30. This is 35. Okay, so it seems like people were mixed on that. So I'm going to split the difference. Color intensity, 35. Contrast. Right now it's at 50%. We're going to fluctuate between 40 and 60. So here's 50. I'm going to go down to 40. That is 40. Oh, that doesn't look good, does it? That's 40. This is 50. Which is better? 40. This is 40. This is 50. Yeah, no, I don't care what you guys say. 50 is better. Okay, now let's try 50 to 60. So this is 50% contrast. I'm going to go to 60. 60. And this is 50. I like 50. I think 50 right in the middle is perfect. But you guys can give your opinion. What else can I play around with? Auto white balance. I got it max right now. See, like, yeah. You can't fool around with too many variables. Yeah, 50 looks better. Okay, Kamala Harris delivered an economic speech in North Carolina, according to the Washington Post here, streamed yesterday. I haven't had a chance to watch the whole thing, but I kind of am interested in economics. I mean, like, I like money. Who doesn't like money? I like the economy to do well. Who doesn't? And so I thought I'd give a listen to it, give her a chance to explain her position on certain things. Let's make sure the volume's up. Okay, here we go.
Can we hear from Mike D?
Mike D.
To be back in North Carolina. Oh, it's good to see everyone. Thank you. Oh, it's good to see everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Please have a seat if you have a seat. Please have a seat. Mike D, I have to tell. So Mike D's Barbecue, let me tell you one of the biggest fans of Mike D's Barbecue. My husband dug him off.
Your husband what?
And thank you, Mike, for sharing your story. And I'm just so sorry for what your family has been through, but you have, out of an incredible tragedy, done so much for the community, and you are such a role model. So thank you, Mike, for everything you did.
Unfortunately, I didn't watch that part, so I don't know what that was about.
And good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you to all of the incredible leaders with us today, including my...
Yeah, thank you for the donation, but I could ask ChatGPT about Kamala's economic plan.
My friend, the...
But, you know, I'm better than ChatGPT, so you can just ask me.
Governor Roy Cooper, where is he?
Okay, these are just intros.
Roy Cooper. What number is it, Roy? And to Shine. He's doing incredible work. Tip. And to all the leaders that are here today, including the students. So listen.
Here we go. Listen.
This election, I do strongly believe, is
I do
about
declare.
two very different visions for our nation.
Right. Feelings
One,
over truth.
Ours, focused on the future, and the other, focused on the past. We see that contrast.
Focus over the future versus focus over the past. But wait a minute. Isn't MAGA Make America Great Again, which means future? Is she the real MAGA?
Clearly in many ways, including when it comes to how we think about the economy. So our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. At that time, we sadly remember the millions of Americans that were out of work. We were facing.
Yeah, and whose fault was that? Whose fault was that millions of Americans went out of work? Who shut down the economy? I sometimes wonder what would have happened if state governments, local governments, and federal governments would have said, business as usual. Whoever dies, dies. I wonder if we would have inflation today. I wonder how many people actually would have died and how much different it would be. I think a lot of old people would have died. But really, would it affect the economy that much?
One of the worst economic crises in modern history. And today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world.
Don't disagree with that. It's one of the strongest, at least. But that's what happens when you pour tons and tons of debt onto an economy. It tends to do okay for a while.
We have created 16 million new jobs. We've made historic investments in.
We have created 16 million new jobs. How do I explain this to people on the left in a way that they can understand? I mean, I can state the obvious things, right? The obvious things is because the economy was shut down during COVID in 2020, 2021, that part of the 16 million jobs that she's talking about of creation is people getting their jobs back when the economy reopened. So is it fair? Is it reasonable? Is it true that they created 16 million new jobs if these are jobs that just naturally would have come back no matter what once you reopen the economy after COVID? That's question number one, or point number one, that people on the left need to think about. And be honest, be truthful, right? Now, in my estimation, the bounce back number of jobs, I don't even have to estimate it. It's publicly available data. But from memory, it's at least 6 million and probably 9 million bounce back jobs. Then another interesting thing about this number of how many jobs have been created. A lot of these jobs are part-time jobs that are given to people who already had part-time jobs. So there's many, many Americans living in this country who work 2 to 3 part-time jobs, or work a full-time job and then a part-time job just to make ends meet. But the number of people who are actually employed has not gone up, except for immigrants. So most of these jobs, in quotes, created have gone to immigrants during the Biden administration. In fact, I think all of them have, except for the part-time jobs that existing Americans are taking on to make ends meet. But there's no more employed natural-born citizens than there were when Trump was president. Is there anybody here who disbelieves me on this? Because if you do, I can show you the receipts from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I've already done a short on it. But what I just told you is the truth. So when Trump said during the debate that most of the jobs that, if not all of them, that the Biden administration had created, the 10 million, 15 million, whatever number you want to say, these are bounce back jobs from the economy being closed, and their jobs going to immigrants. That is the truth.
Infrastructure, in chips manufacturing, in clean energy. And new numbers this week alone show that inflation is down under 3%.
That's true. Now, what has the Biden administration done to do that, to lower inflation? I would claim very, very, very little. The reason why inflation is coming down is because of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates to the highest levels seen in 20 years. That is why inflation's come down. Why did inflation go up in the first place? Now, people on the right, conservatives, are going to dislike me, but very little of it's Biden's fault. Some of it's Biden's fault, some of it's Trump's fault because of the huge stimuli that happened during COVID. But it goes back decades, again, from the Federal Reserve, pouring money whenever there's fear in the economy. Remember the big bank bailouts, the housing crisis, the dot-com crisis. Whenever there's a crisis, heaven forbid that people suffer. I mean, we can't tolerate any mental anguish. So the Federal Reserve comes in and buys bonds, which lowers interest rates, which causes the stock market to go up, which causes people to be more happy about their 401k, which causes them to spend more. This is called the wealth effect. The Federal Reserve actually espouses trickle down, but not trickle down for the billionaires, the trickle down effect of the wealth effect. This is true. This is the truth. Trickle down works. When people feel wealthier, they spend more. That's what I mean by trickle down in this case. You usually think of it as tax cuts for the rich. By the way, if you're a conservative and you're talking to your progressive friends, your liberal friends, your left-leaning friends, ask them this question: what's wrong with tax cuts for the rich? Most of them have not been forced to articulate an answer on that. Get them to articulate an answer. What is wrong with tax cuts for the rich? Well, they're rich. And they don't, and then ask them, whose money is it? If a person legally earns millions of dollars and they get a tax cut on the amount of money they earned, wasn't that their money to begin with? Or is it society's? Ironically, if they say it's society's money and not the person who earned it, they're technically more consistent. They're basically a communist at that point, but they're more consistent than someone who just is semi-socialist, leans left and says, oh, it's theirs. It's not society's. Okay, so if you answer it's their money, if it's a billionaire's money, if it's a millionaire's money, what is wrong with them keeping more of it? If they earned it legally and honestly. Very few people on the left can articulate that answer. It's basically just a feelings-based argument. Well, it's not fair because there's poor people in the world and they need, people in the country, and they need to be fed and clothed and housed and educated and healthcare and all that sort of thing. Then ask this question if that's their answer. Did they do anything to deserve that help? This gets right to the core of socialism versus capitalism. Did they do anything to deserve that help? Answer, no. Did the rich person do anything to deserve that money that they earned? Remember I said honestly, sincerely? Yes, they did. So what you're doing is you're punishing doing in one case and rewarding not doing in another. But, Doug, don't you want to be compassionate and empathetic? Yes, but let's be very honest about the situation. Someone who's poor and needs to eat, and someone who's rich, the rich person got that money from doing something. And if you give money to the poor person, they're not getting it because they did something. They're doing it they're getting the money out of charity. Let's be very honest what's happening. They did not earn it nor deserve it. Unless you want to say just by fact, by being human, you deserve it. Okay, fine. But that's not saying much. There's a lot of humans.
And as President of the United States, it will be my intention to build on the foundation of this progress. Still,
should I make it louder?
We know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives.
True.
Costs are still too high.
Yep.
And on a deeper level, for too many people, no matter how much they work, it feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class that advance their economic security, stability, and dignity. Together,
like what?
We will build.
How do you advance that?
What I call an opportunity economy.
Opportunity economy. Ooh, this sounds like a little social justice-ish. It's fine, the volume is fine? Okay. Do billionaires deserve all their money? If they earn it honestly, I'd say yes. I would make this claim. The billions of dollars a billionaire has is more deserved than a morsel of bread a poor person gets. Because the poor person, let's say they didn't earn it, it's by definition. Now, this kind of rhetoric, I can guarantee you, is like bile to the person on the left, but it's the truth.
An opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed.
Isn't that called capitalism?
Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, has an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and their children.
That's called capitalism.
And where we remove the barriers to opportunity, so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so.
Yeah, this sounds like capitalism to me. I didn't know Kamala Harris was a capitalist. Let's listen.
I will focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape.
I made a short on this. This is one of the part I heard. This is very Trumpish. Cut out the unnecessary bureaucracy and red tape. Make it easier for people to start their own businesses.
And encouraging innovative technologies while protecting consumers, and creating a stable business environment with consistent and transparent rules of the road.
I don't think anybody could disagree with this. This sounds fine to me.
As president, I will bring together labor with small businesses and major companies to invest in America, to create...
Invest in America? America first? Like when she says invest in America, that means like as opposed to invest in Brazil, as opposed to investing in Mexico. Invest in America. I mean, am I wrong, or is she sounding like Trump here?
Good jobs, achieve broad-based growth, and ensure that America continues to define the future and lead the world.
Lead the world. exceptionalism is what she's talking about. She actually sounds like Rush Limbaugh. America first, American exceptionalism, lead the world. America's number one. I wonder if she's about to call other nations shit whole countries. No, she would never do that. I wonder if there's anybody in this audience going, well, wait a minute. She does sound like Trump here. Should I applaud or not? I'm just curious.
And key to creating this opportunity economy
I'm listening.
is building up our middle class.
Yes, I agree. How do we do that?
It is essential.
How do we do that?
The middle class is one of America's greatest strengths.
Yes.
And
How do we do that?
To protect it, then, we must defend basic principles.
Okay. Which ones?
Such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life.
Whoa, it should be enough. Your salary should be enough to give you a good quality of life. I mean, okay, that sounds nice, right? Oh, that sounds nice. But I shouldn't actually lose hair. I shouldn't ever get sick. I mean, I shouldn't eat as much cheesecake as I want and gain weight. You see what I'm getting at with this? I would appreciate a president or a presidential candidate to look into the camera and say, life's unfair and it always will be. But I'm, as president, going to get out of your way as much as possible so you can be the best version of yourself and excel in whatever you choose to excel in. But there's no guarantee of success. There's no guarantee that you'll even use your gifts in such a way that you will be rich. You might end up failing because of your idea was an idea that didn't catch on and nobody wanted it. And you will end up on food stamps. Can you imagine if a president had the gall to tell the truth like that?
Such as no child should have to grow up in poverty.
Like to me, this is so ridiculous. Of course, no child should go hungry. I mean, but what does this have to do with the government of the United States? I think I know exactly what she's getting at here. The government needs to be the mommy and daddy for everybody. You're a child hungry, the government will feed you. You can't afford education, the government will educate you. You're sick, the government will heal you. This is, I think, what she's getting at.
Such as after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity.
These are so meaningless platitudes. If you work hard, you should retire with dignity. Why is a presidential candidate even saying these things? She's saying it, I think, because she wants to guarantee it. Doesn't matter if you work hard at a job or industry that nobody wants. As long as you put the effort in, as long as you have good intentions and you try, if you vote for me, we'll guarantee you enough money in retirement that you don't have to walk around with your diapers hanging out. Something like that. I don't know what she means by dignity. Blessed Bee says, I deserve to be taken care of by the government. No, you don't.
And you should be able to join a union if you choose. Building up.
I agree here. See, I want to be fair. There's some things I disagree with, some things I agree with. I am not, this is going to shock some people on the right, I'm not a default against unions. But here's my point. Any corporation that's unionized, it has to be voluntary. In other words, you can choose to be a part of the union, or you can choose not to. And if you choose not to, no money is taken off your check for union dues. How many people who support unions support what I just said? That unions ought to be, like Kamala's talking about, should. Well, unions should be voluntary. Agree?
The middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency, because I strongly believe when the middle class is strong, America is strong.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I'll make another claim right now. Historically, there's a huge correlation between immigration and wealth disparity. True. I made a short on this as well, and you can search for it. But as the number of poor immigrants come into a country, it's common sense. The wealth disparity increases. If you want to, here's an idea for the Democrats. If you want the middle class to grow and be strong, then take the best of every country in the world and immigrate those people. Take the people with the highest IQ, the most wealth, the most stable families, the lower degree of mental illness, stable, smart, financially independent people. Import them to our country, and you'll see your middle class thrive. I wonder if they would go for that. Because odds are those people are more likely, maybe 55%, more likely to vote Republican. I don't know if I want to import people who vote Republican. I've had people tell me on more than one occasion, because I was born in Canada, to go back to Canada because of my political views. Can you imagine if I said the same thing to people from Peru? Poor people from Peru who vote progressive so they can get free stuff. Go back where you came from. Can you imagine? I'd be called a xenophobe and a bigot. But it's okay to say it to me. I'm not bitter.
So in the weeks to come, I will address in greater detail my plans to build.
Yeah, Blake says those people will have no need to immigrate. Maybe I should put the chat up here so everybody can see it. No, there's people who are prosperous in their own countries, or who are young and desire to come to university here, and that already happens like by the tons. There's many people who want to live in the United States, who are probably the top 10% of their country.
An opportunity economy, and today I will focus on one element that's on the minds of many Americans as they pay their bills at the kitchen table or walk the aisles of a grocery store, and that is lowering the cost of living.
How are you going to do that? You know what is the surefire way to lower the cost of living? Cause a depression. Truth. If you want prices to come down, if you want deflation, let's have a depression, like 1930s style. You'll see prices drop super fast, super low. You want prices of homes to go down? Let's have a 1930s depression. Truth, fact. The price of houses will plummet if we have a depression. Is that what you want? Presidential candidate Harris? Do you really want that? Now, if you don't want a depression, how are you going to lower prices again? Let's see.
So every day across our nation, families talk about their plans for the future, their ambitions, their aspirations for themselves, for their children. And they talk about how they're going to be able to actually achieve them financially. Because look, the bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes, prescription medication. After all
that's
for many families, there's not much left at the end of the month. I grew up in a middle-class household.
I still want to know how you're going to lower prices.
For most of my childhood, we were renters. My mother saved for well over a decade to buy a home. I was a teenager.
Whoa. This is interesting. Her mother saved for a decade to buy a home. Kamala Harris, I dare you to look in the camera and say, hey, you young people today in your early 20s, you think you deserve to buy a home coming straight out of university or while you're in university? No. Douche. Get that expectation out of your thick head. My mother saved for 10 years to buy a home, and maybe you need to do that too. Maybe you need to take a financial budgeting class and learn how to save your money for 10 years. Maybe you need to exercise patience. Do you think you deserve a home at age 22? Especially if you haven't saved a dime and you go out to In-N-Out Burger every other night. You know, $20 there to $30 here, it adds up. You should be saving that, putting that 20, 30 bucks in the S&P index every day, every week. Save up. You don't deserve to live in a home because you haven't saved for 10 years like my mother did. Oh, I would love it if Kamala Harris had the guts to say something like that.
When that day finally came, and I can remember so well how excited she was. I kind of understood what it meant, but we called her Mommy. Mommy was so excited, it just made us excited that she was so excited.
And I'm excited for her hearing the story. Because when you work hard and you have a goal and you save, and it finally comes to fruition, you say, I did this. I worked, I saved, I was responsible, I was disciplined, and now I can finally afford a home. I did this. This type of language, I think a lot of people on the left don't like. They don't like to hear, I did this.
Later in college, I worked at McDonald's to earn spending money. Well, some of the people I worked with were raising families on that paycheck.
Mistake. And this is, everybody hates me when I say this. Not everybody. There's some people who support me when I say this. If you're a grown adult and you're working at McDonald's and you bring children into the world, that should not happen. Kamala was talking about, you should this. You should be able to retire with dignity. You should have a living wage. She didn't use the phrase living wage, but that's what she meant. Well, you should not have kids if you're working at McDonald's. How about that for a should?
They worked second or even third jobs to pay rent and buy food. That only gets harder when the cost of living goes up.
True.
When I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans.
Okay, I'm sure she's going to get there, but so far she hasn't said how. But here's some advice from presidential candidate PineCreek Doug. If you're a young person listening and you want to buy a home or whatever, stay at home with your parents and ask them kindly, is it all right if I stay here and save money and live for free or cheaply, maybe not for free, but so mom, dad, here's my goal. I want to save this amount of money for either university or for school, for buying a home, for buying a car, whatever. Can I stay at home and live for very, very cheaply? And hopefully your parents say, yeah, as long as you do, some things around the house, you clean up after yourself, you clean up, you do some yard work, pull your own weight, you can live here for free. If you are a young person and you have this idea in your head, you turn 18 and you leave home and you have your own place, you're an idiot. If you think you can just go live, that you deserve to live by yourself in an apartment or a house, you're an idiot if you think that's the way the world works. You don't deserve to have your own place. What have you done to deserve it? You have to work first and earn it. My daughter and my son both have full-time jobs right now. They're on pace to easily save $25,000 a year. Like save. Complete in the bank save. It might even be more than that. Do that for 4 years. You now have $100,000. And if you invest it, probably going to be $110,000, $120,000 over 4 years. Once you have saved up $100,000, life becomes easy. And you can very easily do that. I should write a book. 18 years old to 22. It is easier to get a job at age 18 than at the age of 22. Because at the age of 18, most employers will view you as a complete dunce. Their expectations of you are so low. Your interview process is irrelevant. But when you're 22, 24, 26, and you go to get a job, they're going to start asking you questions like, what's your experience? Well, I was in university. Well, I know, but what can you do? Well, I can't do much, but I know how to think. Well, that's good. But I need you to do stuff too, not just think. What can you do? When you're at 18, they don't ask those type of questions. They assume you know nothing and you can do nothing. And they're going to pay you the minimum to do a very boring job. But guess what? If you live at home with your parents, you can take every penny of that minimum wage, and basically you won't get taxed on it because you're making minimum wage. And so you can save almost all of it. Do that for 4 years, and you now have $100,000 at age 22. Be unhappy for 4 years. I'm talking to the 18-year-olds right now. And if you're older, send this video to an 18-year-old or someone who graduated last year or going their 12th grade. Send this video, timestamp this. Tell them, be unhappy for 4 years. Get a job first for 4 years. And then save up $100,000. And then if you want to go to university, go to university. But the advantage of this idea is even after 4 years, if you spend some of that money to go to university, and hopefully you get scholarships because you're not an idiot, then when you graduate from universities and they ask you the question, you graduate at age 28 now, well, what can you do? Well, before I went to university, I spent 4 years doing this, this, and this. Oh, very good. Interesting. So you do have some experience. So now you have an education plus experience. You're welcome.
As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like
food.
The cost of food.
Yeah.
We all know.
But if you live at home, you have good parents. What I mean by good parents is parents who realize it's their responsibility to, when you bring people into the world, it's your responsibility to take care of them till the day you die. It is my responsibility to take care of my kids until I die. And hopefully I die before my kids. It's not the government's responsibility to take care of you. Hey, young people listening, It's not Kamala Harris's responsibility to provide you food, shelter, clothing, university, medical care. It's my responsibility. It's your dad's responsibility and your mom's responsibility. This is the difference between a conservative and a progressive. You know why? Because they realize there's so many parents who can't do that, who made the poor choice of having kids they can't afford, didn't even want. I mean, the problem is so deep, it goes to things like desiring to be loved and cherished and valued. And so then a woman who desires, a young woman who desires to be loved, cherished, and desired, then sleeps with a young boy, a young man, in the hopes to get this love and value. And then she gets pregnant, and then because of religion or other reasons, or she lives in a red state, she can't get abortion. And then, I mean, her life is ruined.
That prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved.
True.
And prices are still too high.
True.
A loaf of bread?
Well, hang on. I said true, but let me back off that. Are the prices too high? Aren't they being traded at the fair market price that willing buyers are willing to pay? This is another issue. I realize that there's some things like food that people have to buy. But I have a friend who's a very successful attorney, and we have different views on university, for example. And I say that part of the reason why the price of universities, the tuition is so high, and the reason why the price of homes are so high is because there are willing buyers, willing freely to pay that price. And I'm here to say to those buyers, stop it. If you're complaining that the price of homes are too high, then don't buy a home. If you're complaining that tuition is too high, then don't go to university. Don't pay it. But Doug, I have to pay it because, no, you don't. This is why I'm not totally against unions, because if all the parents in the United States got together as a union, if we unionized the parents and said to universities across America, we're not paying your tuition anymore. It's too high. Guess what would happen? Well, we got a problem that kids can have access to government funding and borrowing. But we'll put that on the shelf. Let's say nobody could borrow money to go to university. And parents refused to pay the high price of tuition. The price of tuition would plummet. Because the demand, this is the simple law of supply and demand, which I think still works today. I can't watch anymore as a Christian. I'm offended by PineCreek. But yeah, blessed be. That's because you're progressive. You can't handle the truth.
Cost 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%.
Okay, again, here she's sounding like Trump. These are the exact arguments Trump is making. And now she's making it.
Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades.
Some are, some aren't. Let's see here. I feel like we need to fact check her. At least I've been saying things and I've been referencing shorts I've made. But this one, I think I want to show. Yeah, here we go. Let's see what I found. What she's getting at is that there's these big, mean, unfair corporations gouging people. Well, here is the profit margins of 500 of the biggest companies in the United States of America. The blue line represents the operating margin, which basically is the operating profit divided by sales. What percentage are they making? And you notice during the housing crisis, it was 0. During the COVID thing, it was negative. Oh, no, it was 5.9. And this flat line here is the long-term average going back to 2000. So right now, it's at 11.2%. Well, no, hang on. This is old data. Well, it's not too old. It's probably going into 2023, barely. Before the pandemic, at the height of Trump in 2019, it was 12. The profit margins now are lower than they were in 2019. Does that sound like price gouging to you? If a company is gouging you with price, you would think they're making more profits than they, as a percentage of sales, than they did in 2019. But that's not the case. Now, it was the case in 2021, but that's because it was like sort of like a slingshot effect here. And it's because companies saw what was coming. They saw inflation coming, so they raised their prices to get ahead of the curve, and then it came down. But here's the truth. What Harris just said is maybe true for 1 or 2 companies, but it's not true for the S&P 500. The profit margins are lower than it was in 2019. Truth, truth, truth.
And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't.
Chris Hatch says these are just gross profits. No, they're operating profits. Gross profit is sales minus cost of sales. That's gross margin. That's gross profits. Operating profits is things before depreciation, amortization, interest, and some administrative expenses. That's operating profit. Then net profit is the net. I can see if they have the net profit margins for the S&P 500. Yeah, I do. But does it go, how far does it go? Oh, Chris Hatch, I love you, man. I love you, man. Chris Hatch is my favorite man because he makes my points for me. The net profit margin going all the way to Q1 2023 is lower than 2021 and 2029. At the height of Trump, it was all around 11.9, 11.4. It started to drop, and now we all know why it really dropped here because of COVID. But 11.2, 11.3 is in line with the Trump era. So thank you, Chris Hatch. If you expect price gouging, that these evil companies are taking advantage of those poor consumers, you would expect this number to be much higher than these numbers. It's definitely not higher than Q3 of 2018. I sincerely love you, Chris Hatch. Please don't ever leave my channel. I need you here to help me make my points. Hang on. I got so many things here open. There we go.
Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules.
Yeah.
But some are not.
Correct.
And that's just not right. And we need to take action.
These are such infantile platitudes. Now, most people are doing good things. Some people are doing bad things, and that's bad. That's basically what she just said.
When that is the case.
Straw man,
As
Doug.
Attorney
You're straw
General
manning.
in California, I went after companies that illegally increased prices, including wholesalers that inflated the price of prescription medication.
Wait a minute. If we live in a free market society, how do you prove someone is illegally raising prices? Like, I own my own business. Like, there has to be existing laws in the books, exceptions. But if for my services, I raise my price exorbitantly, let's say I raise my price 1,000%. Have I done something illegal? In a free market, no. What ends up happening is people say, whoa, you're charging me this, Doug? Yeah. No, I'm not paying that. I'm going to go to your competitor. Okay. And guess what? If enough people go to my competitors, if I don't want to go out of business, I'll have to lower my price. So I think she's maybe talking about cases where there are no competitors, but let's listen.
And companies that conspired with competitors to keep prices of electronics high.
Okay, fair point. So she's talking about conspiring. But the thing is, like I'm so old now, it's been years, but I took economics in school. I got a master's. I have an MBA. There's something called, when we ran studies in our class. In fact, we were paid to participate in these studies where we were told to conspire, but we still had free choice. So we could cheat, and then the goal was to maximize our profits. Guess what happened? When competitors conspire together, all it takes is one cheater, and the whole thing crumbles. This is why cartels can work, but they can very easily not work. So if you have 10 people, 10 competitors conspiring together, and one cheats, guess what happens? The others cheat in order to keep up with the one who's cheating. And when I say cheat, it's not really cheating. It's just like, oh, I'm willing to do it for a lower price. It's not really cheating. It's just like, I'm willing to do it for a lower price. That's not cheating. But it's cheating in terms of the conspiring. I mean, you promised you would keep your prices high. I changed my mind because I know I can make more money. You guys keep conspiring together, but I won't. So it's very hard to actually, in practice, in a capitalistic society, to have that conspiring stay for any period of time.
I won more than $1 billion for consumers.
What?
I won more than $1 billion for consumers.
Oh, that's what she did. In savings.
So believe me, as president, I will go after the bad actors.
Good, yeah. Who doesn't want that? I'll go after bad people. Unless they cross the border from the south.
And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
Gauging. Yeah. Have some grace, Doug. She meant gouging.
My plan will include new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules.
Yeah, okay. What good is that for today? Are we in a crisis today? And the thing is, companies are not stupid. If they see inflation expectations that inflation is rising, like they do surveys. Do you think prices will be higher or lower or the same in the future? They do surveys like this. And companies look at these surveys and participate in these surveys. And if they see a survey and everybody's expecting prices to go up, it almost becomes a self-fulfilled prophecy. And so what companies do is they raise their prices in expectation of that their supplier is going to raise prices. And that's why you saw that huge curve, that bounce back just after COVID or in 2022, where the profit margins exceeded. And guess what? inflation did hit. These companies were correct. And so they protected themselves. And then their profit margins went back down to the average. It's very rational what they did.
And we will support smaller food businesses that are trying to play by the rules and get ahead.
I don't mind that. I'll clap for that. I'm all for small business.
We will help the food industry become more competitive.
Good.
Because I believe competition is the lifeblood of our economy.
Whoa! Amen. Oh, I love what Kamala said right there. Kamala. I wonder how many people on the left who would call themselves woke progressives. Well, they won't call themselves. Well, yeah, maybe they would call themselves woke progressives. Competition. Beating other people. That's what competition is. Being better and beating your opponent.
Competition is the lifeblood of our economy.
Being better than your competitor and beating them is the lifeblood of our economy. That's what she's saying. Competition. Love it. Making people feel bad for losing. My competitor beat me. In fact, this happened to me this week. I bid on a project. Someone underbid me. I was sad. It hurt. It's actually only happened like maybe 3 or 4 times in my 20, 30-year career where someone underbid me. Because I'm usually the cheapest and the fastest, most efficient. But I was underbid. And it hurt me. Hurt my pride. Hurt my pocketbook. But that's what competition is. It's being willing to feel bad for being a loser. And you got to respect it. You got to respect the winners. Got to respect the losers. But you're still a loser sometimes. Let's not cherry coat it.
More competition means lower prices for you and your family.
Yes, yes.
Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do.
Okay.
He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax.
What?
On
What?
everyday products
What?
and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans.
Oh, she's talking about tariffs. Okay. Point number 1. The tariffs that Trump imposed, at least some of them, the Biden administration kept. So does that mean the Biden administration has imposed a sales tax on people? And if so, why haven't you removed it, Kamala Harris? Why haven't you and Biden removed those tariffs? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? But she's right that if you tax imports, which is called a tariff, the price of those goods go up. But it's only a tax on the people of the United States if they buy that higher priced item. And if there's a substitute for that higher priced item, then they'll go to the lower priced item. Right? Then it's not a sales tax on the American consumer. So the question is, if Trump taxes China on let's say certain computer or whatever, and you can buy a different computer that's cheaper, that's made in America, or at least not subject to that tariff, then guess what? That tariff didn't make a dent in your pocketbook if you don't buy that tariffed good. This is how you support domestic businesses. And this is why the Biden administration did not remove those tariffs, because they understand this.
It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. A Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on food, a Trump tax on clothing, a Trump tax on over-the-counter medication.
Yeah, is shutting down the Keystone Pipeline a tax on gas? I wish I was in the audience here. I would have asked that question. Oh, you think Trump is taxing gas by having tariffs on imports on oil? Didn't the Biden administration, one of the first things you did is shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which is basically importing gas from Alberta, Canada? Is that not a tax? I mean, couldn't that have really lowered? I mean, this is Trump's plan, I think. If Trump becomes president, that Keystone Pipeline's back up and running. And even though the Biden administration has done a ton of drilling and gas production, which is true, it's even going to increase even more, which will drive energy prices down, which is a big part of the cost of all goods, which will drive the price of all goods down. So if Kamala wants to drive prices down, open up the Keystone Pipeline. Green light more nuclear power plants around the country. You get a 2-for-1 deal there too. You get your clean energy.
And you know, economists have done the
Yeah, you're right, Chris. It's I said gas. I meant oil.
math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year.
Boom.
At this moment, when
That's only if they buy those tariff goods.
everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher. As president, I'll tack and take on the issue.
What?
Of
Did
the
she
cost
almost do a
of
Freudian
healthcare.
slip? As president, I'll tax? Let's listen.
He will make them even higher. As president, I'll tack and take on the issue of the cost of health care. As Attorney General, I took on insurance companies and Big Pharma and got them to lower their prices. And together with President Biden, we've gone even further.
Yeah, healthcare is a huge one. With healthcare, the best way to lower healthcare prices for the individual family in the United States is don't get sick. Oh, very funny, Doug. Well, I know it sounds kind of like a platitude, but there are choices that Americans make that lower your health. Like, we've demonized smoking, right? Like, that's taken care of. And some people still freely choose to smoke. But we haven't demonized eating yet. There's still this thing called fat shaming. No, you can't fat shame. You can't do that. Why not? We smoke shame. And actually, obesity kills more people than cigarettes. Like, even per capita, I think. Because of all the other related diseases like cancer, strokes, heart attacks. You want to fix the healthcare costs in this country. I don't know. How do you get people to stop eating at McDonald's? I don't know. It's a free country. If people want to get fat and kill themselves. Yeah, we meet shame as well. Good point, Hillary emails. Another thing I was going to say, if you want to lower health costs, here's a radical idea. Make it illegal for employers to pay for your health care, that you have to pay it yourself. That basically makes you more responsible and more accountable for your health care needs. Make insurance companies be able to compete all across the country. Allow imports of drugs from Canada and Mexico. Basically, I agree with Harris here. Let's make pharmaceutical companies suffer a little bit more by increasing competition from other countries. Do you realize just how much lower the price of drugs are in Mexico compared to the US? Why is that? Because People are poorer in Mexico than in the U.S. So what do these pharmaceutical companies do? Well, they lower prices because they know they're poor. But in the United States, they know Americans have more money, so they raise the price. When I went through in vitro fertilization with my wife here in Arizona, I bought all my drugs from Nogales, Mexico. I drove to the border, parked the car, crossed the border. There was a little kid there. You can hire little kids to be your chaperone. Said, find me a pharmacy. The little kid found me the pharmacy. I paid the little kid for his services. I went in the pharmacy with my list of drugs. I think I got all my in vitro drugs for like $800. I'm going from my memory, but the savings was huge. Here in the United States, those same drugs would have cost like $2,500 or something. It was a third of the cost, roughly, just by going into Mexico. Same exact drug, sealed from the same companies as you would buy in America. My wife was a little apprehensive, like she doesn't trust Mexican goods. She goes, is this the same? Look, here's the bottle. Compared to the bottle here in the U.S., they're the same bottle. Just, had Spanish instead of English. The same company, same dosage, same whatever. Another way to save money on healthcare costs is pay cash. This is why I was saying to the 18-year-olds earlier, save up $100,000 in 4 or 5 years by living at home and getting a job straight out of high school. Because once you can start paying cash for things, the prices drop. Cut out the middleman, cut out the insurer. Now, this doesn't always work. Sometimes the insurance company can negotiate on your behalf and get a better deal. But oftentimes you can get that same deal yourself if you're a shrewd negotiator. I paid for my wife's C-sections. We had 2 of them. And I remember one of the bills came out to $22,000. And I said, how much will you drop the price if I don't make payments and I just pay it on my credit card right now? $14,000. It went from 22 to 14. I said 14 if I pay right now. And the billing person said, yeah. Okay, I'll give you 12. Done. How many people even realize you can do that? You can. In fact, so many times you go into a hospital and they'll ask for your insurance card. And let's say it's a well-known procedure you're trying to do. Let's say it's, I don't know, colonoscopy or something. And you ask, okay, here's my insurance card. I want you to run it through and tell me what exactly this is going to cost me. And they do it. Then you say, okay, what if I pay you cash? I'll pay it today, right now. In fact, I'll even prepay it. Will the price be any different? And sometimes, often, they say yes, it's even lower. You say, okay, I won't use my insurance. I'll just pay you cash. I'll prepay you right now. Do you know you can do that? But Doug, then you need cash. Yeah, that's why you need to save.
We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month, and the total cost of prescription drugs at $2,000 a year for seniors.
Yeah, just go to Mexico.
We let Medicare negotiate lower drug prices for seniors.
Seniors, go to Mexico.
Just yesterday, we announced that we are lowering.
You think I'm joking here, but I'm not joking. Seniors, listen to me. If there's seniors here and you need prescription drugs, you can save way more money instead of voting for Harris. Go to Yuma, Arizona, across the border. Go to Nogales, Arizona, across the border. And I bet you anything, you'll save way more than what Harris could save you by negotiating with the pharmaceutical companies. And you don't even have to take your car. You can walk across. You can even take a bodyguard if you're scared that you're going to get killed or something. hire one of your big nephews or nieces. No, not a niece, a big nephew to come with you.
The price by up to 80% for 10 more life-saving drugs. And I pledge to continue this progress.
Blake says, what on earth, 22,000? Yeah, for my C-section, was that too high? Are you expecting it higher or lower? You got to remember, this is 18, 20 years ago.
I'll lower the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for everyone with your support, not only our seniors. And demand transparency from the middlemen who operate between Big Pharma and the insurance companies who use opaque practices to raise your drug prices and profit off your need for medicine. 2 months ago, I announced that medical debt will no longer be used against your credit score.
I'm not against that, but you know, people who are financially responsible, all these things don't really matter to them, like because they don't have like all this. Everything she's saying is appealing to people who make income $60,000 a year or less. That's who she's appealing to right now, which is not bad.
And I will work as president.
These are none of these are good reasons for a guy like me to vote for her. Like, I don't have debt.
With states like here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, thank you again, to cancel medical debt for more and more, millions more Americans.
Rule number 2, destroy your credit card. Yeah, that's not a bad rule. But, you know, so many things, you can't even pay cash anymore.
As for Donald Trump...
Thanks for the donation, Anglo-Catholic. Why did they change the monkeypox name to Mpox? I don't know. Good question.
Well, he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Woo!
Which 45 million Americans rely on. 45 million Americans rely on it for health care. That would take us back to a time when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We all remember what that was. And we're not going back.
Oh, to answer your question, I guess I should have guessed this. Anglo-Catholic, why did they change the name monkeypox to Mpox? I guess monkey is offensive.
And remember, and this is why we're not going back, because we do remember, he tried to cut Medicare every year he was president, threatening a program that tens of millions of seniors count on. And according to his Project 2025 agenda,
Whoa. According to who's his, Trump's 2025 agenda? Come on, that's dirty pool. That's dirty pool.
To undo our work to bring down prescription drugs, the cost of prescription drugs, and insulin costs. Well, we've come too far to let that happen.
Yeah, did Trump cut Medicare? If I can see how someone would say yes, because one of Trump's main things was to get rid of regulations, more regulations, to get rid of waste. And so if you view that as cutting Medicare, because you actually, if you, let's say, have a department within Medicare that you think is wasteful and you get rid of it, have you cut Medicare? Well, technically, yes, but it's a good cut. because now you've made Medicare more efficient. And I think if you phrase it that way, even the Harris supporters say, yeah, we're for getting rid of wasteful stuff and inefficiencies. See how you can take something, say, Trump cuts Medicare. Boo! But he did it in a way to get rid of waste. Yay! This is how politics works.
So we're not going back on that, and let's talk about the cost of housing.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the cost of housing.
So now, the housing market can be complicated, but look, I'm not new to this issue. As State Attorney General, I drafted and helped pass a homeowner Bill of Rights, one of the first in America.
Rights.
And during the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big banks for predatory lending with many of my colleagues.
Predatory lending. You know what that sounds like? When I hear predatory lending, I hear a family going, a husband and wife going to a mortgage company, and they go, yeah, we'd like to buy a house and we're here to get a loan. And then while they're talking, the mortgage lender pulls out a gun. Say, okay, here's the terms. And you are going to sign there. And if you don't, I'm going to take this pistol and I'm going to use it. Now that I would say is predatory lending. But I think for people on the left side of the aisle, they view their own constituents as so stupid and so ignorant that when they freely sign something, they go, well, of course they didn't read it. Of course they don't understand it. There are people, they don't know what they're doing. So therefore, predatory lending. Now, back in 2000, I worked for a mortgage company for a summer as an intern, a paid intern. And guess what? That, what many people on the left would say, straw man I just gave, is true. There are a lot of people who have no clue what they're doing, what they're signing. They have no idea. All they know is, I need a house, I want a house. And you can help me do that. Sign here. Anybody who has no income or very little income and they're taking on a mortgage that they can't afford, is that the lender's fault? Or is that the person who signed on the dotted line's fault? If you lean left, you'll say it's the lender's fault because they're smarter than our people. Our people are ignorant and have no financial, so they ought not do this. And part of me agrees with them. They ought not do that. But if you lean right, you say ultimately the responsibility is on the person for their own choices. In a capitalistic society, if someone is ignorant or stupid and they make a choice that leads them to bankruptcy, it's the person's fault that they went bankrupt, not the lender. But if you lean left, it's the lender's fault. This is a fundamental core difference between left and right.
Including Roy Cooper. And won $20 billion for California families when I was Attorney General.
Doug, isn't predatory lending what caused the 2008 mortgage crisis? No, I would say it's many things. I would say that it's people being stupid that caused the 2008 mortgage crisis, but it was also encouraged by the government. In other words, you remember the days about, well, there's not enough black people. There's not enough African Americans living in homes. There's not enough Hispanics living in homes. That type of rhetoric led to a pressure from lending institutions to get more African Americans, more Hispanics into homes that they couldn't afford. Now, if you call that predatory lending, okay, if that's your definition, But still, ultimately, the responsibility, I've been consistent on this. I even said this about January 6th. Ultimately, the responsibility is with the people. So I put more responsibility on the people saying, for being stupid, for making bad choices. Then I do give responsibility to the lenders for allowing it to happen, for doing it. Like a lender should say, look, your income cannot support this mortgage. Don't do it. That's what they should say. But what ends up happening is the people sign, they sell the mortgage to another company, they bundle it together into these packages. You guys seen The Big Short, right? Was it The Big Short about the 2008 crisis? And then that's what happened.
So I know how to fight for people who are being exploited in the housing market.
Yeah, okay, now I want to steel man Harris. I think a better way of doing it is education, financial education. Maybe put into, like the federal government has 10% influence on public schools around the nation. Encourage states as part of the curriculum in high school to learn about buying a house. When it's smart to buy a house, when it's not. What can you afford? Now, if you're a young person listening, I'll give you a quick rule of thumb. If you make no money, don't buy a house. Now, if you have a job and you have an income, let's say, I don't know, let's say it's $40,000 a year. You can afford an $80,000 mortgage. 80, that's it. And you can afford an $8,000 car. That's it. That's max. $40,000 a year. 20% should be on a car or less, preferably less, and pay cash. If you don't have cash, then don't buy a car. And if you make $40,000 a year, $80,000 mortgage tops. So if you can afford a $10,000 mortgage, a down payment, that means you can afford a $90,000 house. That puts you in a small town in North Dakota. If you make $40,000 a year, the only place you can live in the United States is in a small town in North Dakota. Deal with it. Otherwise, you have to live with mommy and daddy. Which brings us to another topic. You shouldn't even go to the bank. If your mommy and daddy are willing to lend you the money, then go to them first. But most parents won't do that. They might co-sign. What's your opinion on those tiny homes that are popular now? Great. I mean, I'm a free market guy. Like if these tiny homes sell, do it. I actually am against big, huge mansion homes. Like, even if I were a billionaire, I cannot see myself living in a 30, 40, 50,000 square foot home or, those huge acreages. I mean, to me, that's just so much work. I know you're not going to do the work yourself because it's so big, and so you're going to hire people. But then you got to administrate all the people, the gardeners, the cleaners, there's an entrance guard, all of these things. Like, why do all that work? Like, all you need is a good bed, maybe a good rec room, a nice kitchen, and like you don't even want 10 bedrooms. Like, why? Because that will just encourage people who you don't like to come over and visit you. No. When family calls, can we come and stay? Well, we only have 2 bedrooms. Sorry. Go stay at a hotel. I tell you, family is like fish. It's really good, but it starts to stink after 3 days.
And I know what home ownership means. It's more than a financial transaction. It's so much more than that. It's more than a house.
Oh my, here we go.
Home ownership and what that means, it's a symbol of the pride that comes with hard work.
Yes. Remember she told the story about a mom had to save for 10 years before she could. She should look in the camera and tell every young person listening to her on the Democratic side, you shouldn't even think about owning a home until you've saved your money for 10 years. That's what she ought to say. She should set the expectations appropriately.
It's financial security. It represents what you will be able to do for your children. And sadly, right now, it is out of reach for far too many American families. There's a serious housing shortage.
If it's out of reach, then that means they don't deserve it. Just like your mom didn't deserve it, and she had to save for 10 years before she did deserve it. And then the joy she felt when she finally could afford it because she had saved enough made it even more valuable to her.
In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up.
What's driving prices up?
There's a serious housing shortage. In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up.
Okay, why is there a building shortage? If there's money to be made in homes, then KB Homes or what are some other big home companies? If there's a shortage and there's a demand, is there anything stopping them from building homes? They're not building homes because there's not the demand for it, right? Or am I missing something?
As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels.
I'm all for cutting red tape. Let's get out of the way of providers of homes and buyers of homes and let them negotiate. Yes, zoning laws. Climate Town has a ton of great videos explaining. Oh, yes, William, Billy, Will, whatever you go by. Great point. I forgot about that. And this is why, my live stream chat is probably the smartest live stream chat on the internet. Isn't that the Democratic Party, who's very concerned with the environment, about the squirrels in the field and the rattlesnakes in the desert? If you truly want home builders to make more homes, get rid of the red tape. Get rid of all this climate study, the environmental impact study requirements. Say, we're going to kill some animals here today. Let's bring the bulldozers over. Here we go. Hello, Italy.
And by the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals.
What? The government's building homes now? I mean, didn't the government build a pier on the edge of Gaza that sunk? I mean, we're trusting the government to build 3 million homes
that are affordable for the middle class. And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans.
Oh, these homes are lower income housing homes then, I guess. These homes are not for rich people, by the way.
Not just investors.
Yeah, I don't disagree with her here. Yeah, if you're going to make some legislation, say BlackRock, hands off. But even then, that goes against my free market. Like if a company wants to buy up a bunch of homes, they should be free to do it. But I make exceptions for big corporations and even for, especially for corporations from other countries.
Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them, buy dozens, if not hundreds of houses and
I'm an American citizen and a Canadian citizen.
Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible then for regular people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with more competition, of course.
We also know that as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well.
That's just science.
Even if aspiring homeowners save for years, it often still is not enough. So in addition, while we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home.
Yeah, then they stand up. Oh. What happens when you give people free money to buy a home? The cost of the home goes up. Oh, but maybe we'll price fix it then. And we say, don't they think? Doesn't Harris think? If Harris was to say, in PineCreek Doug's industry, in the service PineCreek Doug provides, I am going to give anyone who wants a service that PineCreek Doug provides $25,000. And I hear this, just like the home builders are hearing this right now. I hear, what? The U.S. government's going to provide $25,000 in help to get my services? Guess what I'm going to do on my engagement letters? Is the price I'm going to ask go up, stay the same, or go down? It's going to go up. Because I know they have more money now. This is the law of supply and demand. When you make more of a supply of money, prices go up. Because people have more money to spend. What is $25,000 times, she said new homeowners, right? What is that, $1 million, $2 million a year? What's $1 million times 25,000? Is that 25 billion? Or is it 250 billion? 25 billion. Yeah. Yeah, that's not gonna tame inflation, will it?
We can do this. We can do this.
Of course you can do it. You can just print money. You can just print money and then give it to people so they can afford a home. And then, but then you got a problem with inflation again, and the dollar value of the U.S. dollar decreasing, and then that causes imports to be higher. And then what you end up doing is a sale tax on the poor, called inflation.
All to help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership.
Yeah, because we care about these poor Americans, and we want them to experience the pride of ownership.
And the financial security that it represents. And
the financial security, yeah. People, this is another wrong assumption, that just by buying a home, that it provides financial security. Now, sometimes, it can, because now you're making payments and you're building equity, but you can do that on other assets too, of course. But what a lot of first-time home buyers don't understand, and this is why we need education in high school, Or I can just tell you here, you don't even need education in high school. I'll just tell you, I'll give you education for free. The cost of maintenance on a home, upkeep, property taxes, insurance is very expensive. Utilities. I mean, when you rent, a lot of these things you don't even think of because your landlord takes care of it, takes care of you like a little baby. When you go from a renter to a homeowner, you're no longer a little baby. You're responsible for when the toilet breaks, when something's wrong with the wiring, when you need to replace the roof. If you are a first-time home buyer and you're listening to me right now, at least 5% of your income per month should be taken and put in a little box in your closet. Hyperbole. This is an analogy. But take 5% of your income, put in a little box in your closet in $100 bills every month for when something in your house breaks down. Then when something breaks down, you go to your closet, open the box, and take out $100 bills to pay for it. Are you willing to do that? Can you do that? Or are you going to be tempted to use those $100 bills to go to In-N-Out Burger? Or see a movie? Or go to a show? This is what's called becoming an adult.
So that's my plan. But here's what Donald Trump would do.
Whoa, what's he going to do?
If his Project 2025 agenda is
she
put
did it
into
again.
effect, it will add around $1,200 a year to the typical American mortgage.
How?
He's got it backward.
How?
We should be doing everything we can to make it more affordable to buy a home, not less.
How does Project 2025 increase the price of a mortgage? Explain it to me. I got ChatGPT open. How does Project 2025... Maybe she has a good answer. I don't know. How does Project 2025 increase the cost of a mortgage? Here's how Project 2025 might increase the cost of mortgage. Deregulation of financial markets. Project 2025 advocates for rolling back many of the regulations put in place after the 2008 financial crisis, including parts of the Dodd-Frank Act. Oh, while deregulation could lead to more lending, it might increase financial instability. I mean, maybe. Monetary policy influence. The project suggests influence the Federal Reserve's policies to focus more on controlling inflation rather than maintaining low interest. Oh, she's saying that interest rates will go up? Housing market impact. Project 2025 includes proposals that could impact the housing market, such as reducing federal involvement in housing finance. Oh, reducing the role of Fannie Mae and Freddie. That's probably what she's getting at. Reducing the role of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. If the government's backing of mortgages is reduced, private lenders might raise rates to cover the increased risk. Yeah, I think that's what she's getting at here. Right now, the government feels so sorry for people that there's these organizations called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which helps get people into homes by having the government back the mortgages, which lowers the interest rate. And she's saying if Project 2025 gets its way, these organizations like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac might be pulled, therefore raising the interest rates, which raises the mortgage. But isn't she for competition? Isn't she against conspiring? Aren't Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac government conspirers who don't like competition? If the government is involved in the private industries, why do we need the government to back mortgages? Why? Like, these are fundamental questions, fundamental differences between the left and the right. Is the role of government to back mortgages? If so, why? Is it just so people feel good? Have the pride of home ownership? What happened to her story about her mother working hard, saving, and doing it on your own? What happened to that idea? Because some people can't. For your information, Destiny is with PF Young right now. Oh. Yeah. You know what? I think I'd rather listen to that. Thanks for telling me. But hang on. Does anybody want to come in and talk to me? I guess I should just provide a link. And then see. Make America feel good again. Yeah. It's not the role of government to increase your emotional stability, to make you feel good. No, it's the federal government's job to protect you from enemies, both domestic and foreign, but not to affirm you and say you're valued and loved. I made a video on that too. Is this the Dave Ramsey show? Good question. It's starting to sound like it, isn't it? I don't listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey because I don't feel I need to, but from what I have heard, I think we're kindred spirits on a lot of things. But yeah, if somebody wants to talk to me, feel free to call in. I'll put the link in the live stream chat. All you have to do is click on it. And don't worry, it's safe. No spamming, no. All you have to do is click on it. It's not going to ask you for anything, except for your mother's maiden name and the last four of your social security. But other than that, and your favorite pet's name. Other than that, it won't ask you a thing. Okay, let's see what Destiny and PF Young have to say. I've had a lot of people. I wonder if he's going to let me in. No, he won't.
Statement that there are some people that would listen to me if I didn't say some things. Yeah, some people would otherwise listen to me, but don't because of rhetoric I engage in. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, yeah.
That's a very different framing of how I framed it. I'm specifically pointing at the whole meme of the Mr. Borelli it's insane. Like some of the crazy shit. Like the firefighter. Whatever.
Oh.
It's like, okay.
Hang on.
Stuff.
This is Destiny's channel.
What would I say? I've talked to Vosh. I talked to Andrew Wilson. I'm sure I'll have the misfortune of talking to Nick Fuentes at some point.
I want to see if he's live on his channel too.
The hype is real. The project.
He isn't. Interesting.
Understand when you're on the Bridges podcast and you say to JJ McCullough or Mr. Beat, the problem is the temperature is turned up too much. Conservatives and progressives have a caricature of one another, and there's a very large middle ground of reasonable people who could, come together on solve important issues. That's almost.
Feel free to call in anytime.
And then it's like, okay, then you say the shit about the firefighter. Which.
Oh, they're talking about this.
I don't know which Destiny form I'm talking to often or watching. It's like. Is your goal to bridge the gap? Do you believe that conservatives are caricatured and that's a problem?
Yeah. What Destiny said was pretty vile. William.
Hey, Doug. Looked like you wanted me to call in. So.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah, I didn't think you liked talking to me. That's why I was surprised and hadn't called.
I'll be honest. I don't hate it, but I don't. It's not my favorite thing, because you seem to be.
That's why. That's why I didn't until you said something.
Yeah, it's because you and I have a personality clash. Like, you're a detailed-oriented person. I think you'd like to dive into the details. I'm a meta, big picture type of guy. So we'll naturally, on almost any topic, we're going to probably disagree on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with you on the 25K. Like, I think that's like one of the dumbest ideas I've heard in a while. But.
Yeah. But go ahead and tell me what you disagree with.
Well, actually, I'd actually really love to see you respond to. I don't know if you've seen, like, Not Just Bikes or Strong Towns or any of the stuff they've put out.
Maybe. What's the name of the channel?
So the series is, if you do like Not Just Bikes, like the first part of the series is like the truth about American cities. And like they're all pretty short videos, I think, like 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes.
And it's the channel name is Not Just Bikes?
Yeah, I think they collaborated with Strong Towns. They're both kind of like, I don't know, advocacy channels for stuff you would disagree with. And I'd actually be really curious to see you like respond to one or some of their videos in that series. And they also like they put out like 100-page plus studies on stuff like backing up like claims they make in their YouTube channel and stuff. But
okay, because I'm looking at a video now that says The Truth About American Cities, Part 1, Strong Towns. You've watched that one?
Yeah, I've watched most of their content on stuff.
So can you give me?
It's one. I mean, like you said.
Can you give me the headline? Like, if you were to write an article, what would the headline be for that video? What's the truth about American cities?
Mostly it'd be like something anti-suburbia, like suburbia's Ponzi scheme, which I think is like actually one of the titles of one of their other videos.
Suburbia as a Ponzi scheme.
I mean, most of it's about like unsustainable city planning and stuff that I think would not align with you politically, but I think they do a really good job.
And why do they think it's unsustainable for people to live in suburbs?
Mostly like the financial aspect. So they go over the finances of like how builders build suburbs. Initially, how they're financed, a lot of times with like TIF or stuff like that. And then they're typically handed over to the city, and there's not enough like tax base to support. Like obviously every so often you have to like repave roads and you have to like maintain city sewer lines and like all that stuff. And since it isn't maintainable having population spread out that much, basically that's why cities have to infinitely grow compared to if you have like, they compare it usually to like the Netherlands and how they do city planning over there.
And thus the Ponzi scheme. Okay, I understand now. But I've lived in a few suburbs in my life and it's not happened to me. It's not part of my lived experience.
Well, sure, but are you saying that trumps the studies that they have out there, like looking at American cities? And
yeah, I do say it trumps it.
So you think your feelings trump the facts? My
lived experience, isn't that a part?
Are you being serious, or are you just kind of deflecting?
Well, what I'm saying is that if there are, what percentage of suburbs do they think this applies to?
Almost all of them.
Okay, if that's the claim. Not in my suburb. The roads are still.
Well, how do you know your suburb isn't being financed by tax-based growth in other suburbs that are being like annexed by the city?
Because I actually, it hasn't been recent, but I think a couple of years ago, I actually looked up the financial statements, and it wasn't. And the roads are still good.
How new is your subdivision?
2012.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think that'd be in the lifetime of like deteriorating infrastructure.
Okay, so you're saying, well, roads are still like it's over 12 years now for the roads. I have no potholes in my subdivision. They're talking like, eventually you have to completely resurface roads. They're talking about in fact,
the lifetime of like city sewage services and water services and like all that stuff that's not sustainable.
Like a lot of the suburbs have HOA fees. So it's not taxation per se, it's the HOA fees.
Those don't go to city infrastructure though, right? Those go to like lawn maintenance, and I guess if you have if you're in a gated community, maybe those go to like a private drive or something.
Right. I'm in a gated community, but what are you talking about city infrastructure? You're talking about like the roads just outside my gated community?
Well, it might be different if you're in a gated community. I don't know if they cover the financials of something like that. Like, do you have, I mean, I would assume still like city services are run to your house, like city water, city sewage.
Yeah.
I mean, just logically, if you think about like, if you compare the cost of running and maintaining like power lines and all of that stuff to suburbia versus like dense housing like they have in the Netherlands, or like America used to have before like auto manufacturers kind of.
I'm still not understanding the problem. The problem is that in order, like, I have not experienced any negative things with my water, my electricity, my roads. What's the problem?
I mean, the problem is it's financially unsustainable. I mean, that's why a lot of cities are.
So you're saying that in what, 5, 10, 15 years from now, what bad thing's going to happen to my community?
Well, it depends on growth, right? I mean, if you have enough growth, you can sustain a Ponzi scheme for quite a while. But I mean, that's why a lot of cities have deteriorating roads. That's why like taxes are kind of out of control in some cities, is because, you know, it's not, that kind of infrastructure isn't very sustainable.
Okay, so as long as you get, what, 2%, 2.5% growth, you're going to be fine?
Well, it's going to depend obviously on like the economic status of the people and the how dense your population is and the city services you're providing.
Because where I live, there's lots of growth. Like, there's people from California who dislike the Democrats so much they come to Arizona. And they,
I mean, sure, but if you look at birth rates, like that check's coming due here eventually.
no, I'm not talking birth rates. I'm talking people are immigrating into Arizona from California.
I don't know if that's entirely true.
It is true.
Maybe it was. I guess, can you pull up stats on that? It was maybe true for a little bit, but I don't know if that's actually.
Okay,
maybe you don't have to.
If you agree it's true for a little bit, then you agree it's true.
I don't think that's how that works.
You just disagree on the degree of the truthness. You think it's just a little
Well,
bit.
you said that it was tensed in the present, so I assume you were talking like.
Yeah.
Recently.
Well,
like, if it happened for like 1 year, 2 years ago.
when I bought the house I'm in right now, the real estate agent is like a big time real estate agent in where I live, and she said, yeah, there's a lot of people coming from San Diego, from Los Angeles. They're sick and tired of the housing prices there, so they come to Phoenix and Tucson to buy cheaper homes. They can sell their home in LA or San Diego, and they can buy a mansion here in Arizona and have cash left over.
Yeah, I mean, a realtor told me that in Nebraska too when I bought a place, and I'm pretty sure that's not entirely true.
Why? Why do you?
I mean, there's certainly
why do you
some
doubt
people
that? Doesn't that make common sense?
Mostly just distrust of realtors. I'm not a fan of realtors.
Oh, so you're going with your lived experience now. Gotcha.
No, I think there's ample evidence out there. I mean, literally a class action lawsuit, you know, against kind of realtors and their, in my opinion, scummy behavior.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. I got a couple other people who want on.
Yeah, is that something you're interested in?
I got it open
I was
here.
just curious.
I'll take a look at it. But based on what you said, no, it doesn't pique my interest.
Well, their YouTube videos aren't super detailed, obviously, by the length. It's just when they publish stuff that, like, you know, obviously they make a bunch of claims in those videos that.
But yeah, no, that's not that interesting to me. But thanks for letting me know. Landon.
1 second. Would you rather me have my camera on, Douglas?
Yes, I'd rather have your camera on.
Oh God, that is a terrible color.
But I won't.
Oh God.
I won't show it to the public. But I want to at least be able to see you. Maybe, unless you really want me to show you to the public.
Yeah.
Your camera kind of sucks, though.
Yeah, it does. I'm well aware that it does. Yeah, that's good enough.
Okay, what do you want to talk about, Landon?
Have you ever been to EG's in Tucson?
Of course.
I love that. I was born in Tucson, so.
Yeah. Not only have I been there, I used to know the owners.
Anyway, so do you think that Project 2025 is something to be concerned about, or no?
No.
Is there any place where you would say, hey, this is something to be concerned about?
Well, if you're asking me if there's things in it that I disagree with, of course. I think almost when you have something that's 800 pages long, you're going to find something you disagree with.
No, but I'm talking more about the implementation. Like, what would have to come to pass for you to go, well, hey, this is scary enough that the mere chance of it being implemented is worth taking seriously?
Again, I don't like your question, but I'll answer it anyhow. I think like things like if they implement restrictions on in vitro fertilization, like that whole reproductive stuff. My kids are products of in vitro fertilization, so I'd be against that, if that's what you're asking.
I mean, I guess we just have a different degree to which the threat of Project 2025 or even parts of it being implemented is enough for me to go, that's so far beyond the pale of what I would want for a democratic institution that it's not worth the risk.
What's not okay? But you're linking Trump to Project 2025, though, right?
Well, yes.
Okay, why are you doing that when he said he's not linked to it?
Well,
you don't believe Trump.
I mean, again, optically, I think, of course, he would say that, but like JD Vance has spoken about it favorably. Many of the people within Project 2025 have worked for Trump specifically, and it seems that the Heritage Foundation at least believes that this is enough of a thing that could be implemented, that they're taking it seriously and making.
Okay, but what are you personally worried about?
I mean, rescheduling a lot of the workers, abolishing the Department of Education. Those things seem.
Why? Let's take one at a time. Why are you scared of the abolishing of the federal Department of Education?
Other than I'm going to school and I get federal grants.
Oh, you selfish little guy.
Of course I'm selfish. I'm getting paid quite well to go to school.
Well, that means you're smart then.
Smart enough.
Or how did you? Oh, hang on. Did you get a needy scholarship or bursary, or did you get a talent scholarship grant bursary?
I guess that's a little hard for me to say.
Is your dad rich or poor?
I'm an independent student, so I guess.
That means your dad's poor.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've done quite well. Well, he's done quite well certain years, and other years he gets absolutely.
Yeah, he's like me. Your dad's like me. But see, I can afford to pay for my kids' university, but I choose not to. What do you think of that?
I don't really.
You don't care? Okay.
To me, it's the amount of people like you. Whatever. I'll offend you.
No, you can't offend me. Go ahead.
Yeah, the amount of people that I think would be abusing the system like you would, where, hey, I'm just going to do this because, hey, free money, I'm not going to turn it down, is so insignificant in the scale that to me it doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, I guess, would you feel the need to thank me?
No, not particularly.
Why aren't you thanking me for paying for your education? You said you get federal grants, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Where does the federal government get its money mostly from?
Well, but wait, the question was, do I feel like the need to thank you? And the answer is no.
I think you ought to. You should thank me publicly for putting you through school.
Well, sure. Thank you, Doug.
You're very welcome, Landon. I pay a lot in taxes, federal income taxes, and it's people like me who pay the majority of federal income taxes in this country, which allow you to get grants to go to university. So thank you for saying thank you. And
most of them are state grants, though. So
okay,
I'll only thank you for the part.
You want to tell me what state you're in?
California.
Okay. The next time you see a very wealthy person on the street, I
know very wealthy people. I thank them all the time.
Okay, you need to go up to these wealthy people and say thank you for paying your taxes so I can go to university.
They know. I go over to their house every Super Bowl, every 4th of July, every Christmas. I'm very good
Oh,
friends
yeah,
with
you're smart. You're schmoozing with the upper class to get a job later, right?
No.
No?
I don't. They're in real estate. So they're quite wealthy.
What are you studying?
Philosophy. You know.
Oh, Landon, if me and people like me are paying your way through university and you're taking philosophy, what's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
Learn to code, man.
No. I tried coding one time. Spent 2 hours looking for a semicolon because I didn't understand.
Or be a male nurse. We need more people in the medical industry.
I've thought about it, but I would be a male nurse in California. You
Yeah.
know how much the government restricts male nursing in California? Everyone's moved. A lot of nurses are moving to California to get the benefits.
Okay, Landon, if there's anything I can do to help you in your life, drop philosophy and shift into nursing, and you'll be fulfilled. They'll give you great meaning. Like if you become a philosopher type, you're going to be nothing but sad for the rest of your life. You don't want to be sad, do you?
Doug, we've talked on many occasions.
We have?
Yeah. And
But this is the first time you've shown me your face, though.
Well, yeah, that's
Because I would definitely recognize that face. Now people want to know what you look like.
But again, I'm well aware of the sort of troubles that we might face as a government, but yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm all okay. I'm totally okay if the federal Department of Education goes away.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So do you think that like a lot of these issues just should be fundamentally state issues?
Yep.
And the GOP has supported an idea that we should ban abortion federally, right?
No, that's not true.
They haven't said that?
Correct.
Okay.
Project 2025 has, but not the federal government, not the Republican Party. Can you provide me evidence of that? That the Republican Party's national position is the banning of all abortion? Is that what you mean? Are you here saying that the Republican Party wants to ban all abortion?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the party would, but that's more
Okay.
individual. Again,
Right.
I'm
Some of them might.
I'm fine with conceding this.
Okay.
To me, it really doesn't matter whether it's like a national GOP. Hey, we want to ban it like this.
But Landon, you know what? You don't have to worry about abortion if you don't get a woman pregnant.
Sure.
Can you do that for me? Can you promise me you will never, ever get a woman pregnant unless you want to and she wants to, and you plan and you saved your money and preferably get married and have good jobs that you can support your child? Can you make me that promise?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Landon. Because, I am putting you through school, so you owe me this.
Of course. I won't be a burden.
Anyhow, I really enjoyed this talk. Is there give me one more thing you're scared about? Because Project 2025, I agree, the abortion, all the reproductive stuff, I wouldn't like. But is there anything else that you don't like?
I mean, them doing a lot of things about gender. I mean, again, you've talked about
here we go.
A lot about the trans issues and yada yada yada. Would you at least agree with me that people should be able to do whatever the fuck they want with their own lives?
No.
No, you don't?
There's of course limits in everything.
Well, under the idea that, hey, I'm not going to affect you.
In general, I agree with you, but I do think that if someone wants to, let's say, cut off their own arm, I think society has a role to play in preventing that type of self-harm. Same with like Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's say parents say, my child's sick, but it's against our religion to have blood transfusions. I think society can play a role saying, and to intervene there and say, hey, no, the greater good says that we can save your child's life by doing a blood transfusion, and we don't care if that goes against your religion. Of course, these are very sensitive topics, but I think there's cases where society does intervene.
Sure.
That's why I'm not a libertarian.
Yeah, sure. I'll agree that there are cases where we should intervene. But I don't. Again, it's just going to become a argument that we've already had of saying, well, I think it's the harm that you're pointing out is either not there or is worth it, and you're going to say nah.
I'm going to say nah about what?
Nah.
Nah about what?
About whether or not the harm of, again, any number of surgeries or any number of medical interventions for trans issues would be worth the risk.
Yeah, to me, the evidence is not good enough to say, and in fact, people agree with me, that definitely not bottom surgery. You don't want bottom surgery for minors. The evidence, the risk reward's not there. And I would say I disagree with the experts, so-called experts, on...
But no, wait, no, Doug.
What?
The Project 2025 says that this will also apply to adults. So it's not just, hey, I'm worried about minors.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
although even with the adults, there's exceptions. So imagine,
okay, sure.
Yeah, imagine an adult that's mentally handicapped, and they go and they say, "I want bottom surgery." Like, I think society has a role.
Yeah,
and let's say some stupid psychologist goes along with it. We get the stupid psychologist disbarred and all that sort of thing.
Sure. But we can agree that Project 2025 isn't going to make those exceptions. It's just going to categorically deny it.
Sure, yeah. If Project 2025 has its way, yeah, those exceptions won't be there.
Yeah, so...
But why are you scared it's going to actually be a thing?
Because with the way the world is, only takes one asshole to fuck up a good thing.
You don't believe in our government, the three branches of government?
Well, yeah, and I don't support our Supreme Court in any number of rulings that they've put out. I think our legislative...
And I support your right to disagree with the Supreme Court, just like you should support my right to disagree with the court in New York that said Trump was liable to civil trial for Jean Carroll and that sexual thing. I mean, I think she's a liar.
I mean, legal standards don't make moral standards, or they inform moral standards, but they're not one and the same. So I'm completely fine with saying, hey, they're bad precedents, and I think the Supreme Court has given us numerous bad precedents in the last year alone.
With the immunity thing and with the abortion thing?
Chevron deference, abortion, immunity. I think all of those are absolutely steps back, and...
Well, we have to wait and see to know for sure, right?
Again, would there be agreement that broad-scale immunity, as the Supreme Court has given the president, has tipped the power of the...
It's not broad scope immunity. It's only an official capacity, and that's where it's become subjective.
Okay, but I can officially do something that is still immoral, right?
Yeah, but but then, you know, people have different moral intuitions on things. But again, like, what it boils down to, that immunity case, is the president of the United States is immune from basically almost anything that's done in its official capacity. And the reasoning behind it, I think you understand and agree with. For example, the president of the United States is above the law. Contrary to what President Biden said, you know, that little speech he gave, no one is above the law. No, the president of the United States is above the law because, and this is the argument the Supreme Court made, I read it for myself, and I agree with the argument, and it makes sense. If the president of the United States can pardon a murderer, so let's say someone commits a federal offense in murder, and the laws of the land say that this person should go to jail for the rest of their life, federal prison for the rest of their life. The president of the United States has the power to say, I'm above the law, and I'm going to pardon this person and let them free. That makes the president of the United States above the law, because the law said, no, this person should be in jail.
I don't think he is above the law.
Okay, but
I don't think that case shows that he is above the law.
Okay, but do you disagree that the president of the United States has that power?
Yeah, and I don't think that power is above the law. It's included in the system.
Okay, but here's the point. If the president of the United States can pardon a murderer,
sure,
isn't that the same thing as almost blanket immunity? Like how much worse can you get than that?
Well, again, it can be abused, as it has by Trump, in my opinion.
I know, but again, whether it's abused or not, the president of the United States has the power to pardon a murderer.
Yeah, sure.
Same with governors of states.
Yes. And
so the governors and the president of the United States are above the law in that respect.
No, I mean, again, I'm not. I would disagree that he's above the law. If the Constitution specifically says, "Hey, the president has this power," how is that above the law?
What I mean by above the law, yeah, I guess we're terminology. What I mean by above the law is that the governors and presidents can take the law of criminal law, for example, and say, okay, if the criminal law says this person's guilty and serves this amount of time, I say no. That's what I mean by above the law. It can disagree with it and get rid of it. That's what I mean by above the law.
Yeah, but I mean, that power also exists within petty juries. Petty jury can have jury nullification. Like, is that above the law as well?
I don't know. I don't know what you mean.
Jury nullification is that a jury can vote however they want, right, and also can't be charged for whatever decision they can. So jury nullification.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, in the same sense, yeah.
Would the jury be above the law?
Yeah, I would, under that definition, yeah. Because if the law says that, okay, if the evidence is X and the evidence points to, let's say, someone being a murderer. In fact, there's many movies about this, about Mississippi Burning. I don't know. Anyhow, a man shot and killed a rapist who raped his daughter. And all the evidence point to he was guilty. Like, he did it in broad daylight in front of many witnesses. And there was no doubt that this man killed the guy who raped his daughter. And the jury said, yep, he's guilty. Yep, he killed this man. But nope, we're not going to find him guilty. We're just going to let him go because we, as the jury, thought he did a good thing. So in that sense, the jury was above the law.
Yeah, sure. But I don't think that the president should be able to pardon himself for whatever crime that he commits.
Okay, but that's just your opinion, right?
Well, but again, do you think that the president should be able to do that?
Yeah.
I guess
because in order to be consistent, if a president can pardon a murderer, then a president can pardon himself.
I mean, yeah, but the question is about whether or not the president should be able to do that. But
this is the philosopher in you coming out. You're talking about shoulds. What moral standard are you operating from, Landon? That's not mere opinion.
The original question is, should Project 2025 be implemented, and to what degree are we going to say this is a serious thing that can happen?
Okay, but that's a malformed question, because do you deny that there's at least one thing in Project 2025 you agree with?
Yeah, I mean,
probably is, right?
Probably something there.
Yeah, there's probably something there. So when you say, should Project 2025 be implemented, what you're talking about are so many different things that some things you agree with, some things you don't disagree with.
But that's kind of misleading. The fact that I do agree with at least one point doesn't mean I agree with the other 99 points.
I never said you did. But I'm saying what yeah. To me, yeah, this is becoming silly. You're scared of Project 2025. I'm not. You think it has a chance of, in its entirety, of being implemented.
Oh, no, not in its entirety. But I think as long as enough of it is implemented, I think it's a threat too big to take.
Okay, but all you're doing is you're disagreeing with a certain segment of society. This is nothing new.
I don't think it's quite as simple as I'm disagreeing with a certain segment of society. I'm disagreeing with what I would see as a complete reformation of the federal government to where it's not a checks and balances.
Right,
system.
But in order to disagree with a total reformation of government, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happens because the people want it.
Well, I don't think most people want Project 2025.
Okay, if that's true, then I'm here to say then Project 2025 won't be implemented.
I don't think that you can say that, because
You don't think we live in a democracy?
Well, to a certain extent, but it's also a republic. It's also a representative democracy.
Right.
So as long as Trump has the power to implement Project 2025, and everyone goes, wait, we don't actually want you to implement.
Oh, so you think if Trump wins, he'll automatically win Congress and Senate as well, and governors? I mean, all the governors are going to agree with him, and states are going to go along with him, and the Supreme Court's going to go along with everything. Like you're making a huge assumption here.
I do think that the Supreme Court would go along with him, because they have been going along with him.
Right, but you're assuming on everything that you're scared of with Project 2025 that Congress is going to go along with, the Senate's going to go along with.
But again, I don't think that the Senate, Congress, or the Supreme Court has much say over this. If the unitive executive theory is correct, and the president has unconditional control over the executive branch and the implementation of those laws,
Okay.
then yeah, he can schedule anyone who he wants. He can abolish.
Right, but what's the checks and balances against that? It's the impeachment hearing. So if enough Republicans and Democrats are against what he's doing with executive orders, they can impeach him.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for calling in, Landon.
All right.
Try not to worry too much, and thank you for thanking me for providing the money required for you to go to school.
Only a small amount. Most of it, state. Most of it, I think, is a university grant.
Okay. You thank all those rich Californians for putting through school.
I'm actually going to a different county. The school's not even in my county, so I don't even get county taxes.
Oh. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to get your university degree, and then you're going to move to. You look like a guy who would move to Brazil later. So, and then all this taxpayer money is going to go for naught because you're going to take your skills elsewhere.
Absolutely.
That's what I did. I left Canada.
Well, no, I'm also a Russian citizen. I can go back.
This is where you get your communist leanings from. The truth hurts, right? Do you consider yourself a communist?
No.
A socialist?
No, not really.
Capitalist?
No.
Anarchist?
No.
What are you?
I generally I don't categorize myself. I usually, because again, Doug, you'll agree with this. You like this type of position where like you'll get into these debates with post-syndicalist, I'm a libertarian socialist, and it's like at a certain point theory doesn't matter. I'm willing to talk about policies, so wherever I actually land, I don't care to label it.
Yeah, I like labeling people because I think everybody should have a T-shirt that says what they are.
Sure. I want all Congress people to have NASCAR uniforms with their sponsors on the back of it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good idea. Who's paying for you? In fact, you admitted I'm paying for a little bit of your, so you should say thank you to PineCreek, Doug. You should wear a shirt that says that. Sure. Okay, thanks.
Do I just do PineCreek, or do I just have a comically long shirt that just has all the citizens that pay?
No, well, no, you can, but whatever, you got to be practical about it. But make sure I'm at the top.
At the top.
My education sponsored by PineCreek, Doug. Okay, thanks for calling. Joseph, I have one question for you. Do you have 11 brothers, and were you sold into slavery?
Do I have 11 brothers? Was I sold into slavery? No, no.
You know what I mean by that, right?
I don't.
You don't? You haven't read the Old Testament? Never mind.
Oh, yes, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yes, there. Okay, see now I can tell you're a far left wing progressive liberal because when I talk about Joseph and his brothers in Egypt, you go to the musical.
The musical?
Yeah. You eat granola and you wear sandals.
Oh yeah, I'm the gayest guy you'll talk to.
You got a tie-dye shirt in your closet, right?
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay. Are you gay?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. I like gay men. No, I'm not not in that way, but I find gay men tend to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Yeah. Unlike lesbians. I mean, they have no sense of humor.
Mm-mm.
Do you like lesbians?
No, I take the L out of the GPT or the LGBT.
My apologies to any lesbians. If there's any lesbians listening right now, you're the exception, because if you're listening to this show, then you do have a sense of humor. Okay, Joseph, what do you want to talk about?
I guess it's the T.
Oh,
Yes.
I get so much flack for talking about the trans issue. Why are you always talking about the trans issue? And then so more times than not, it's people, not me, but other people bringing it up. But anyhow, I'm not opposed to it. In fact, I like bothering people. So let's talk about the trans issue.
So I think my only issue, I actually found myself having quite the struggle to understand this issue. I spent a few years just kind of like, well, why can't they just identify as a third thing?
Well, they kind of do already.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because we make up another label, trans.
You see that? You see what I'm holding?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
An oximeter?
Yeah, it measures your blood oxygen level. That's pretty good for an old man, 97%. Okay, so that means I'm feeling good. Okay, so trans, third label, trans women, trans men, that's kind of like a third label.
Right. Is it your opinion? I can't quite figure you out, to be completely honest.
Good.
No, I guess that is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My question to you is just: do you think that the trans stuff is just a semantic disagreement? Like it's literally just about a difference in language, and nobody. If you just listen to a person talk about it, do you think that in the end they're
yeah, I'd say mostly, but not all of it. I think some of it's pure contradictions and pure insanity. But when it comes to like definitionally, what is a woman, what is a man? Like I tend to define woman and man, adult human female, adult human male. And so if a trans person defines it through self-ID, then I just disagree with the definition. But some things, like some claim that the concept of being trans is science. I've heard some actually use the word science when it comes to gender, which is a social construct. And now the terms woman and female are kind of meshing and becoming both social constructs. And this is where I think it now becomes insane, where not only does someone identify as a woman who was born male, but they also identify as a female.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts.
I will say that kind of, it was a little annoying to me because I felt like in 2016, 2017 is when I started to do a lot of my research into the trans stuff. And then I started to I watched a few ContraPoints videos. I read a few biology reports, like papers on exactly what it meant to be transgender. And I felt like, oh, okay, I got this. And then the left started talking about sex as if it were
malleable,
changeable.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wait a minute. I just learned that sex and gender were different things. And the very reason that we made that word gender was specifically because it was different than sex, which was not malleable.
Yep.
So I will agree that there's been a change in the rhetoric, which I think it's probably because the community feels threatened by
let them
like a more conservative viewpoint.
Like I will say this: nobody should physically harm a trans person for being trans. I'll even say no bullying, no physical harm. But we can still have honest disagreements, and if that makes them feel bad, then feel bad. I'm totally okay with having a trans person feel bad from the things I say. It doesn't bother me one bit. And this is when it comes to the arena ideas. If someone says something you disagree with, and you say, "Oh, I'm trans, you can't say that," this whole idea of protected classes really bothers me. Like, Joseph, tell me the truth. You're a gay guy. You're technically amongst the protected classes. Do you like being referred to as a protected class?
I don't care.
Like, if I was gay and if I was you, I would be offended by that. I'm not like a bald eagle near extinction. Like, don't treat me like a child.
Well, but also it, in some sense, it's kind of necessary because it's not, like 50 years ago, I don't have to be worried about being fag dragged. Like I don't.
Right, but we're not 50 years ago. We're in 2024.
Yeah, but like I don't know, give us another decade or two, and then we can stop being. Like I just don't think it really matters all that much. In the end, but I do think that protected classes are necessary in certain moments in time. And then like kind of like affirmative action, I've always had an interesting and different perspective than my other liberal friends, which is that I actually think that eventually affirmative action should be phased out because its purpose was to get the Black and brown Americans or anyone back into these schools, jobs, professions, whatever. And then as soon as it's not a disproportionate anymore, then affirmative action processes end. That's kind of how I always felt about those things. So
But
that's how I feel about it.
Affirmative action is racism.
Yeah, sure.
So you're okay with some racism as long as it's against Asians and whites and not African Americans?
No, I'm against some racism. When it comes to, I'm for some racism if it's because it's offsetting what the bad effects of a racism that happens.
Right.
To them
Two
before.
wrongs make a right.
Yeah. In this case, yeah.
I appreciate your honesty, Joseph. Most people can't talk like you, and I love it. I absolutely love you, man.
Well, I just
You're gonna
I
turn
don't
me
care.
gay soon. Just kidding, wife.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. Essentially, what I think of when I think of, if you need more Black people in a profession, and there are two candidates, a white guy and a black guy, and they both are equal in all ways, take the black guy.
Okay,
that's literally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joseph, do you mind if I challenge you and cause doubt in your worldview?
Go for it.
Why would we ever need more of a certain color in a certain occupation?
Why would we ever need a certain color in a certain occupation?
Yeah.
Because I'm not convinced that race is a biological reality that should dictate who and what profession people are a part of. So if Black people don't exist equally amongst the population, then there's something wrong happening. There's something biasly disfavoring a certain race.
Why do you leap to that conclusion? What if a certain shade of skin belongs to a certain type of culture that doesn't value a certain job and doesn't want that certain job, and it has nothing to do with bad racism or bad bias, bad discrimination? It's just they don't want that because of their culture. They don't want that job.
If they don't want the job, that's one thing. But I'd be interested to know about the research behind cultural proclivities towards certain professions, because my understanding is that just in the same way that like men and women are viewed so like polarized, like we're very different, when in reality it's kind of like two circles overlapping and we share more qualities than we don't share. So I'd have to know a little bit more about that, but I'm of the opinion, and the context matters too, right? Like obviously there are a lot of professions in America, especially, were white, dominantly white, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Black people were not allowed in certain professions, or allowed to buy certain
Right.
property, or allowed to.
But
do
that's not the
like a lot
case
of
today,
things.
right?
It's not the case today.
Correct.
But you know, if you play a game of Monopoly, and three people were allowed to collect $200 every time they passed go, and one wasn't, it doesn't matter whether or not they're collecting $200 along with everybody else anymore. The game is not fair. You have to either reset, or you have to do something that.
See, this is where I disagree
gives
with
them
you.
more money.
You're assuming unfairness. Like, for example, United Airlines. I think it's even based here in Phoenix, just 2 hours from me. The CEO said that he had a goal of making something, I think it's 75% or 80% of pilots, new pilots, to be either female or people of color. Now, my question to you is, why is that a good goal?
I guess if not contextualized, it's a neutral goal in reality.
Well, I would say it could be a bad goal if you're not getting the most qualified. So let's say you had a industry where it happened to be that the most qualified people, and let's say, that's very subjective, but let's say we had an industry that it's all you have to do every day is answer 14 times 17 in your head very quickly, and like questions like that all day, every day. And let's say the most qualified people happen to be Asians who can do that role the best. They happen to be Asians of Asian descent. And so 100% of the people hired in this industry are Asian. Question, why is that bad?
Why is it bad?
Yeah.
I guess it goes back to what I said originally, which is my propensity of belief, especially when it comes to people, are that we are more alike than we are different. And I don't believe that there's an inherent biological reality that some races are better at math than others. So
Well, let's not blame race. Let's say it has to do with culture. Whatever the reason is,
culture.
it actually doesn't even matter what the reason is. This just happens to be that people who say identify as Asian happen to be Asian. 100% of them are in this particular industry. Is it because that little Asian boy, little black girl, little black boy, they're watching TV and they're watching about this industry? There's nobody that looks like me there. Is that what this is all about? You need to identify with someone at this industry in order to feel good?
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it starts there, but then of course the reality is, do we want more freedoms or less freedoms, right? So if we just allow these programs to always accept, in some sense, the people who are best at it, then and a race is better at math than a different race, then that means that that other race that's not as great will never get the opportunities that they have.
Okay, but in this example, it's because they weren't the best at it.
Right, but they'll never be the best at it because they're not a member of that race.
Okay, so if that's, let's say race is the reason and not culture.
Right.
Well, so what? We'll just say one race is better than another race at a certain job. What's wrong with that?
But I mean, but now that's fine. You can say that, but now you're talking about the human ambition and passion and reasons for life, like the reasons why, I really wanted to be a Disney Imagineer. I didn't do the work for it, but if I knew that I could, if just there was a certain type of person who would always trump me into getting there, that would make my life pretty sad.
Well, come on, Joseph. Though, just because you're gay doesn't mean you're not a man. Like, man up. Life's not fair.
Yeah, it's.
You don't deserve to be a Disney Imagineering person if you're not good enough. Accept it.
Yeah.
By the way, if you still have that
that's
interest, I have
fine.
connections at Disney, so you can let me know.
Oh no, that's great. That's great. I play plenty of Planet Coaster, so it's fine. But now, I mean, now you're talking about essentially the differences between what I would say conservative minds and liberal minds, which is
Yep.
like you just don't care about those things, and I do. I want more opportunities for people of different cultures to bring what they have to certain perspectives, to certain disciplines, and you want the best.
Okay.
Always, you know, like you just want to restrict these fields, not
No,
like
no,
forcefully
no,
restrict
no.
them, but like you just want the
best.
natural reality of it to happen, right?
Yeah, whoever's the most qualified gets the job, and if that means 100% of teachers in the United States are Asians, so be it. Who cares if little Billy says, "But I'm not Asian"? I mean, like no, but that Asian is the best teacher. Don't you want the best teacher, Billy? Yes. Well, then we'll give you an Asian. What's wrong with that? And see,
I do worry in a sense. If you're gonna say culture should always make someone the best is not as objective as I think you think it is, because what I've heard is the DEI program, especially in the military, has caused differing opinions to a sort of a multiple intelligences benefit to why it's better to have specific people of different races in disciplines.
Okay, let me steel man you. It's
Yeah.
good to have people of different races because then you have different perspectives.
Correct.
Okay, but that's not correct.
I mean,
you know why?
Sure, go for it.
Because do you think there's a homogeneous white culture? No. Do you think there's a homogeneous black culture, black perspective? No. Homogeneous Asian perspective? No. So what you're doing is very racist.
Wait,
you're assuming everybody is the same.
Well, you just said that culture. If you just said that as a matter of culture,
right?
If someone is better at something, that shared culture is usually associated with their race, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I did not say that.
Good.
So what I'm getting at is, when it comes to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, there's this idea that diversity has different perspectives, and that's a good thing. And I agree with that. But there's an underlying assumption that all black people think the same, all Asians think the same, all people of color think the same. That's not true. In fact, that's very racist to say.
I don't.
Because what you're doing, by definition, you're judging a whole group of people.
No, claiming two different races think differently isn't saying that one race thinks the same. You agree? You understand that, right?
Yeah, that's what I just said. That you can have when you do the check boxes.
No. You're assuming that DEI programs assume that all black people think the same. That's not correct. If a DEI program is meant to share people of multiple intelligences or perspectives, means that their opinions only separate by two aspects.
Yes.
By one aspect.
If that's what DEI means, I support it. But Joseph, do you really believe if a DEI program said we want a diverse spectrum of perspectives, and it ends up that this diverse perspective of perspectives are all people who look like me? They all look like me, but let's say that 10 people are hired. They all look like me, but they're all different. One's a communist, one's a socialist, one's a capitalist. Do you think they would consider that DEI?
No.
No.
The liberal side wouldn't.
You're right, and this is the hypocrisy and the repugnance of DEI, because they think different skin tone means different perspective. Can I get an amen, Joseph?
Kind of, I guess. Sorry, I can't quite get there because, I mean, call it. The culture is usually associated highly with the race. So I understand you're saying it's racist, but why should I care about that, right? Like if you want to do a best guess scenario and your whole idea is, I think that you think that this stuff is easy. I think that's what's happening. Like you think that these big governments like have this all down to like a complete science, a mathematical
No, I don't think that. I think the
logic.
opposite of that.
Well, I mean, but that's kind of that's your criticism of the DEI program. You're saying that because it does this like weird racist thing, and because it's not like this perfect thing, that in the end it's just a repugnant. And I look at it like, hey, if it makes up for a little bit of the damage that was caused, or a lot of the damage that was caused for the last 200 years of American history, I say go for it. Go for it until the program is either not useful or
Yeah,
not valuable
okay, and
to
I
human
wanna-
morality at that time.
I want to change your mind on this. I really do. Because think about it this way. Let's say there's a desire to make up for the past atrocities. That's what you're saying, right? And let's take medicine, for example. And let's say a medical school wants to bring in more diverse, and what they mean by diverse is skin shade. And so they lower the GPA requirement to come in. They lower the amount of, even they make it cheaper for them to pay internships, lower everything is decreased a little bit. Okay, now let's say you and I get sick and we're neighbors and we go to the hospital together. And there's two doctors. One has light skin, one has dark skin. And we know that this medical facility uses DEI practices and has these requirements lowered. Who are you going to go with? The light-skinned doctor or the dark-skinned doctor?
Whoever was available.
No, Joseph, do not wiggle out of this hypothetical thought experiment. They're both available.
Right.
And you know DEI has been practiced in that they've lowered their standards in order to get more dark-skinned people in. That's the hypothetical. Now you can disagree. You can say this never ever happens.
Oh, that's it. That's just that's it. Those are the two. Those are
Yeah.
the two parameters.
Yes,
And who's the race chosen as the DEI candidate?
the darker one.
Oh, I choose the white one.
Right, and I would too.
Right. Of
And
course,
there's-
we live
and-
in reality. So
But hang on, Joseph. If you agree with that, you can see the dangers in DEI. Because
no. I can see the dangers in your hypothetical. I can't see the dangers in
right.
DEI.
So now you have to claim that what I just said never happens.
Not that it never happens, but that 99% of the time it doesn't happen.
Do you believe that at Harvard University they lower the standards so more dark-skinned people can get in and less Asians get in?
Not really, no.
You don't think that happens or has happened in the past?
I'm sure it's happened. Like I said, 99% of the time.
Didn't that go to the Supreme Court?
What do you mean?
The Supreme Court ruled that affirmative action was not constitutional. That's bad.
Okay.
And schools like Harvard University has used things like lower SAT scores, lower GPA requirements to get a more diverse population in their school.
Right, but you said better candidate, not not lowering SAT scores. Why would I care about an SAT score? What if it told me nothing about a person's success in life?
Well, then I would say you'd be flat out wrong. If success in life has anything to do with a standard of living, future income, financial independence, there's a high correlation between SAT scores and those things.
Right.
Oh, you agree with that?
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Right, but you're talking about a DEI program of like, you know, is a white guy's A as good as a black person's B? Right? Like, who knows what that's what I'm talking about.
On an SAT score, there's right answers and wrong answers. There's no black A, white B.
I mean, there are black people and there are white people, right?
Yeah, skin shades. Yep.
Yeah, and a black person's B could be theoretically as good as a white person's A, correct?
Incorrect.
Why?
Because on a SAT, are you talking about SATs right now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So SAT has math, and if the question is what's 1 plus 3,
Mhm.
and someone says 4 and someone says 3.9,
Mhm.
I know that's not exactly like A and B, but there's right answers and there's wrong answers.
Right. Right. You're talking solely about an SAT score, though. I'm trying to talk about it more, like collectively speaking.
Collectively, that's a far left-wing word. You don't say that on this channel. Collectively, or nor holistic,
Of their
or comprehensive. You can't say those words here.
But of their individual ability. You know, if I know a black kid had to take care of their brother after school, had to cook dinner, had to do this, had to do that, and they got a B on their they got a, let's say, a 1500 on their SAT score, and there's a white guy who his father paid for everything he has. He's done absolutely no work, and he gets a 1600 on his SAT score. I'm going to go with the black guy who got a worse score because I know that kid probably can work the hell out of a job than the white kid who got a better SAT.
Okay, I understand that point of view. I really do. That
Okay.
maybe people who are not as smart may compensate for it to work hard. And I get that. But there are actually smart people who get high SAT scores, plus they're hardworking. So now let me ask you this. Would you rather take the black person with a lower SAT score who's a very hard worker, or a white person who got a higher SAT score and is a very hard worker?
I take the white guy with the hard worker
There you
high
go. So,
SAT score.
and I would say you would be going against DEI at that point.
No. You have to understand something here. DEI is supposed to pull people out of these cycles. I don't see how you can fix a broken cycle in your world.
Okay.
If it's always the best person who gets the job, and you have a cycle of poverty that a specific class of people or culture of people are stuck in, then I have no way for them to escape that cycle of poverty.
Okay, but
in
how
your world.
do you know? Do you think you can find out if someone is in poverty by just looking at them?
Come
on, that's
a little bit.
What?
What?
You can tell if someone's in poverty
say
by just. The answer is no. You cannot tell if someone's in poverty by just looking at them. Yes.
Do you mean if they're completely naked? Yeah, sure, maybe, yeah.
No, even by the clothes they wear, you can't tell.
You're saying that someone who's wearing like Tommy Hilfiger polo and a nice pair of khakis between a guy who has a tank top shirt and some shorts, you couldn't tell who might have more money than the other one?
Well, you can make a guess, but I'm saying, like, remember Steve Jobs, who would walk around he was a billionaire wearing sneakers and like really cheap clothes?
Well, now you just said something about correlation and SAT scores and success, and I'm talking about like correlation between nicer clothes and not as great clothes. So obviously there's some in-betweens here, but if you're gonna guess,
you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, like you,
yeah. Okay.
You.
Okay, I want to show you a picture.
Okay.
Okay, you see that picture?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this person should be eligible for some type of diversity, equity, inclusion help?
I don't know anything about them.
Oh! So you would want to know something about them. So in other words, you don't just go based on appearance.
Right.
Okay. So if...
And neither does DEI, by the way.
Oh, really?
Correct.
You sure about that?
Positive.
So do you think DEI could exist? By the way, that's my son.
Okay.
And my son hang on, go away, son. Does not require DEI to get a job, but in my opinion. But do you think DEI would work if it was all blind? In other words, you're using DEI to hire people, but you're never allowed to see them, or they're never allowed to declare their skin shade, their race.
No, it wouldn't work.
Okay. If you agree to that it wouldn't work, you have to be able to look at them. What you're saying is that hiring is based on.
It has to be a part of the equation. Yeah.
But with my son, you said, well, I would need to know more about them.
Right, because there's two aspects of DEI: the color of a person's skin and the quality of the life that they lived.
Okay, and why is the color of the skin important?
The color of the skin is important because that can tell me a lot about what their life might have been like.
Okay, but didn't you say that with my son, you would just need to ask him questions and learn more about him?
Yeah.
So what does it matter what he looks like if you're going to talk to him and find out about his past?
Because you have to take into account the data collected about a race of people.
Okay, what race is my son?
I don't know.
Yeah, you would have to talk to him, right?
Yeah, he'd have to tell me. But you have to understand that this is not an individualistic thing. I know you don't like the collective word, but I do think that it's important to acknowledge, like, it's hard to explain as quickly as I am right now, because I might have to go in like 10 minutes. But my understanding about systemic racism in America, and I'm not sure how you feel about that, but
well, I do think systemic racism is a lot less than it was in America, and I think it's still here, but it's coming from the left, not from the right. Systemic racism is mostly a progressive woke thing here in the United States in 2024, and it's through things like DEI and affirmative action. That's where there's systemic racism.
That's cute, but okay.
No, I'm being totally honest and sincere with when I say that.
I know you are. I totally know you are.
And you even admitted it was racism earlier when we first started this call, but you said it was a justified racism.
Yeah.
So you yourself admit that and do you lean left?
Yeah, I'm a very liberal.
Right. You're making my point. You're giving an anecdotal evidence for what I'm saying. The racism, the systemic racism that exists today are coming from people like you.
No, I mean, that's cute, but I like.
It's cute. It's the truth.
No, remember, there are two people who believe in racism. You think that justified racism is bad, but I just don't. I think that there are definitely aspects of choices that need to be made based on the color of a person's skin. Definitely. It's as simple as a doctor walking into a room of a bunch of people and saying, who's the healthy person here and who's the sick person here? They're making a discriminating choice against people in that room.
If you want to help account for the atrocities of the America's past, you do everything you believe and you do the opposite. So, in other words, I wouldn't actually make this legislation, but if you wanted to get rid of that stigma, you say, okay, African Americans, in order to get into Harvard, your GPA has to be higher than Asians. Your SAT scores have to be higher. The amount of time spent in internships in the hospitals, whatever, it has to be higher. And so when you and I get sick and we go to the hospital and we have a choice between two doctors, you and I jump up and say, I want the black guy. That's how you get rid of that stigma. And if you agree with that, then the opposite is what's doing the harm.
Well, I mean, my question is this: how diverse is the Republican profile right now, and how diverse is the Democratic one? I mean, that's the answer to the question, right? Some racism is good. There's more black people on our side, more diversity on our side than on your side.
Okay, but why is simply having people with dark skin better?
Because that's our goal. That's just what we want.
Because you're racist.
Okay, good. Like I said, like, it's good to be racist sometimes.
Joseph, you're
right?
giving me a ton of clips here, man.
I mean, it's cute. Like I said, it's cute that you think. And I also want to do a little bit of a caveat here. The only reason I'm using racism is because that's how you're defining that word. So I'm just sharing that word with you right now.
Okay, let me guess.
So
black people can't be racist. Is that where you're going with this?
No,
because of
no,
power.
Black people can no. I
Okay.
don't believe in any of that garbage.
Okay, good.
No, of course not. That's ridiculous. In fact, I think that Black people did themselves a huge disfavor by telling themselves that, because now they lost the ability to sympathize with white people who might go into a Black neighborhood and know what it feels like to be a victim of racism, and then be said, "Oh, well, that wasn't really racism." I mean, it was a moment of compatibility that could have been shared in an expression.
And when you say Black people, you're talking about people like this.
I don't know. What did you say he was again? I don't know.
He's my son.
I know, but like, what is his race? Like, what is he a mixture?
Oh, you need to ask people their race?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, okay. So it's not merely just looking at people.
I never said it was.
Okay, so I'm Black.
Okay. I mean, I guess that means you're part Black. You grew up in an African American area. Like,
No, I'm 100% Black.
oh, interesting. Oh, I see what you're doing now. Okay, cute. Sorry, if you couldn't tell,
it's
cute
a good
is one of
thing.
my favorite words.
I know, and it's a good thing I'm secure in my masculinity, because a gay man's called me cute like 5 times now.
Yeah, take it for all it's worth. Wait,
But-
I just want to entertain a hypothetical real quick, and then I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I got to pee too. So
My Monopoly hypothetical, right? You have 4 people playing a game of
Okay.
Monopoly. 3 people play by the rules, meaning
Okay.
they get $200 every time they pass go.
okay,
1 person does not. It's been 5 rounds.
okay,
All of the buying actions have been happening. Everything's been happening.
okay.
And then after the 5th round, that 4th person is allowed to collect $200. Is the game fair?
No.
How do you fix the game?
How do I fix the game?
How do you fix the unfairness?
Restart the game.
Or what if you couldn't restart the game? What would you do?
Well, you could just have the people give the 4th person who didn't get the 200. Why didn't the person get 200? Because the other 4 didn't let them?
They weren't allowed.
But that's not the rules of the game. But I understand with the hypothetical.
I said 3 were playing by the rules of the game, and 1 wasn't allowed to collect the 200.
Okay, 1 wasn't allowed to collect. Okay. Yeah, then I would have the other people compensate them for the 200.
Okay, so you believe in DEI.
What does that have to do with DEI? That's more having to do with reparations.
Right. Reparations is a DEI specific program. Who are you going to give reparations to? White people?
Would you just say DEI is a reparations specific program?
DEI and reparations are very synonymous. You have DEI as the top title, and then reparations exists as a branch of that.
Okay, but there's very, very few people in the United States where that applies. Like, you're talking about slavery, right?
Not just slavery, Jim Crow laws. So we're talking about like my friend's grandmother.
Okay. Now, but the problem with that idea is how far back do you take it?
I don't know, but all I know is that after the Holocaust, the Jews got full mea culpa for everything that happened, but Black people for 200 years did not. And the idea that a few decades would wash that, I think, is naive. And I think it's naive.
Yeah, see, like I like your hypothetical, and I hope you think good of me that I entertained it to the end, and I gave you my honest answer. But in the real world, the way that hypothetical analogy would apply to the real world today is that it wouldn't, because the 4th guy who played the game, died and had children, and they died, and they had children, and they died, and now several generations, you're asking the children of the 3 people who denied the $200 when they passed go to compensate for their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers, to their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren of the Black person who might have interbreeded with white people in somewhere in those generations. Like,
I mean, I could
that
switch
would
the hypothetical to a relay race if you'd prefer, but I don't really think it matters. You're just you're just kicking the can down the road. The hypothetical the time is completely irrelevant.
no, it is relevant because the people who did harm should be the
Yeah.
people who pay, right?
The people who did harm are the people who should pay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand what kind of empathetic ethic that is. Like, I
Well, no,
don't.
that's justice.
Who cares about the justice of it? I care about the empathy, the sympathy of the people involved, about the communities that were affected by their grandparents' grandparents' grandparents.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
if I want to fix it, the issue, why would I sit here and say, well, it's not
No,
my problem
Joseph-
because it wasn't me who did it? Like, that's ridiculous.
Joseph, I like you, man, because you say it the way it is, the way you feel, the way you think, and I appreciate it. You're not sugarcoating it, but I can simply show you wrong there. Do you think someone who legitimately has slave history in the United States, an African American, should pay reparations to another slave ancestry person?
I don't. Can you ask your question again?
So someone who has ancestry, slave ancestry, should they pay
Okay.
reparations
To whom?
to another person who has slave ancestry?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? It wouldn't be fair because they're part of the slave ancestry. Why are they paying for the white
Wait,
man's atrocities?
I'm sorry. I ask your question again, but just be a little bit more specific. I'm losing you.
You are for justice, even though you seem to say that you're more for the empathy. And what I'm getting at is to show that you're for justice, it would be totally unfair for someone who has slave ancestry to actually be part of the reparation process what I mean is paying out. Because they're the victim. Why are they paying the penalty?
I don't think that they should pay.
Right. And the basis for that is justice. It's not
Yeah.
just for them to pay the penalty for someone else's sins. So don't give me that you don't care about justice. You do care about justice.
Well, you said that that's justice when I said that if one person did something to another person, like you were making it way too personal. I'm trying to look at it at a big picture. I don't care that my grandfather's grandfather is the person who affected these people. I'm dealing with a bad situation right now, and I want to do what I can to fix it. And I'm in my sincere ability to help these people, trying to develop. And I'm saying I as a collective I, to help them. And then I have people like you who come around and say, hey, this is a racist policy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Right? Like, how do I break these people out of these cycles? Because just letting them do their own thing and not touching it is not working. And it hasn't worked.
The way you break them out of the cycles is you enforce current laws, meaning you can't discriminate based on race. So if there is a company and there's a guy who's looks like my son, who happens to be qualified, and you can prove that they're qualified, and they say, no, we're not hiring you because you got dark skin. They just come out and say, we don't hire blacks here. You enforce that, and you penalize and put that person in jail. That's how you change the cycle. And then what you do is you allow people the freedom to do whatever they want, to go into whatever industry they want, and if they're qualified, that they're hired. And you don't discriminate based on skin shade. You do not be a DEI person. You get perspectives based on different beliefs and attitudes, not based on skin shade.
You're going to get a racist outcome by doing that. I know you're not going to intentionally want it to happen that way, but in the end, you are.
Meaning, what you're saying is that you will get a whole bunch of people.
You're going to have disproportionate amount of white people in your companies and in your fields, because.
And that's bad because.
Because, oh my God. I guess it's kind of like asking like why do we want women to read when
No,
like,
no,
it
no,
was
no.
90% of women, 90% of men could read, and like 30% of women can read. So why is that bad?
That's a horrible analogy.
I mean, this is 100 years ago, right? But we made it equal because that's the.
This gets back to my question about Asians. If 100% of the best qualified teachers in the United States happen to be Asian, and so all high school teachers are Asian men, let's say, why is that bad?
I think it's bad because it excludes people of a different type of race that would want.
But they're not good enough.
Be part of those systems.
They're not as good as the Asian men.
Yeah, I never said anything about being good enough. I just said how it's going to make a person feel, and the opportunities and ambitions of the human psyche that contributes to your health as a human being. I mean, that's what we're essentially talking about here.
I mean, I really like you, Joseph, because all the time, many times in the past few years that I've been doing this, people say, Doug, you're straw manning the left's position. Doug, you're making but you are saying the exact same things I've been saying for years. This is the real reason why you feel this way, is because of the feelings of people. It excludes people. It makes them feel bad. And this is a real psychological effect. And and there's very few people who will just come out and say that this is the real reason. But for me,
our feelings are the only thing that matter in this universe. The feelings, human beings are not fact searching creatures.
I gotta pee so hard, but you're getting me so excited. I mean,
feelings are the only thing that matter. I mean, in the end, our values are the only thing that really matter. Who gives a crap about really anything else besides how certain things make us feel?
Do you exercise?
Do I exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like really exercise. Do you run? Do you do weights?
Yeah.
What does it feel like when you do that? Does it ever hurt?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, so hurt feelings can be okay.
Hurt feelings can be okay as long as the feeling at the end is worth it.
Yes. So this is exactly, and you probably missed this, but I said this earlier. I gave advice to young people that it's okay to be unhappy for years if you have a goal and you're trying to achieve it. So when you say feelings is the only thing that matters, what do you mean? Do you mean that it's okay to have bad feelings for a while?
Yeah. You can have bad feelings for a little bit. Sadness is good. You ever watch Pixar?
Yeah. Okay, so when you say feelings is all that matters, you really mean you're not saying that. So in other words, even being excluded might feel bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is bad.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, we're on the same page now. Joseph, you're so close from going to the other side. I mean, not becoming a hetero, but becoming a conservative.
No. I can't be a conservative. I'm a little too intelligent.
Oh.
No, I like. I will say, am I liberal? Am I really? I don't know. In the end, I think that I prefer diversity of opinion, and I don't really get a lot of diversity of opinion on a liberal side. It's you usually just get kicked out for having opinions that disagree. So I usually prefer talking with my more
Joseph, you hear what you just said? You said that when there's a diverse opinions on the left, you get kicked out. So who's more for diversity, the left or the right?
Diversity of opinion, I'd say conservatives are more for that. But
okay, do you value
everything else? I'd say liberals.
Do you value diversity of opinion?
I do.
You just said the conservatives are more likely to allow diversity of opinion, right?
Yep, and that's why I have conservative friends.
Yeah, you're so close to switching teams.
Yeah, I mean, well, you have to. Diversity of opinion is just one aspect of what makes me run as a human being, right? I like helping poor people. I like taxing the rich. I like all sorts of different things that relate to my liberalism.
Why do you like taxing the rich?
Because it de-incentivizes big business, and I like that.
Why?
Because then you have more competition.
Okay, I'm all for competition, but if someone makes a lot of money selling a product that people want, what's wrong with that?
Because then eventually, once they make too much money, they'll start dominating that platform, and they'll start to to crush out small business.
Okay, but at that
Increasing
point, we can use legislation for like anti-monopoly laws. Like we can
Yeah,
we
I
can
just
guard
believe in
against that.
I would prefer, and this is something that you should probably agree with, actually, is a more natural way of dealing with it, which is if you tax the rich, they won't take the money. They'll just reinvest it in the company, or if you make it more harder to make the money to begin with, they'll just distribute it amongst their lower level employees.
What
And then there's more funds to go around for small businesses, and I don't believe in.
I'm not going to ask you any more questions because I got to pee and I'll just get to the point. But I would say that if a person has shown a track record of getting a good ROI, return on investment of, let's say, 10, 15%, I would say it is a crime to tax them high, because you're better off letting them keep more of their money, getting the high return on reinvesting, like you said, reinvesting in their own company, generate even more money. And so taxing at a lower rate would be better than taxing them at a high rate because of their return on investment. And it ends up helping more poor people.
Well, but if you tax them at the top rate, if you're taxing them on the profit, then if they're good at the ROI, then they'll just reinvest it anyway. It wouldn't matter. The tax.
I know, but do you have a 401k, right?
No, I have a mutual funds account. But...
Okay, so you have mutual funds.
Yeah.
You realize that if it's paying dividends and you're reinvesting those dividends,
right,
it's compounding, and so it grows, right?
Right. Yeah.
And exponentially. And so if you pull, let's say you have a medical expense and you pull money out of there, that sets you way back, right? And it's hard to compound because now you have a less of a base to compound against. This is the same.
Right, but I already made a lot of money.
I know, but what ends up happening is the amount of money you would have made is far less because you pulled money out. This is how taxation works with highly productive people who have a strong history of having a huge return on investment. If you tax them, what you're doing, you're saying, no, you can't take that money to reinvest. No, you can't take that money to reinvest. And so you're constantly dropping their potential. And you can actually run spreadsheets on this and saying that if you tax them at 20% versus, let's say, 80%, that you're better off taxing them you'll get more tax revenue by taxing them at 20% over, let's say, 40 years than taxing them at 80%.
Yeah, I mean, that might be true, but there's a lot of bad business owners, let's just be honest. ROI is never really that great for most of them. So I guess the higher
they go out of business then.
Care of the best one. But then I don't understand. Okay.
Like if they have no return on investment or not enough to cover their fixed costs, they'll end up going bankrupt, and that's the way it should be. And then they'll feel hurt and their feelings will be hurt, but that's the way it should be, because what will end up happening if they will fall to the ground on their knees, they have to get up and try again and do it better the next time. This is what capitalism is all about. But anyhow, Joseph, I got to go. I got to pee.
All right, wait. I just want to I'm done after this comment. All right. You did make me think a little bit more about one question, and it's the best question you've asked this entire conversation, which is, why is that a bad thing? I love that question because it's a huge meta question that's at the very key of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to actually think about that a little bit more, and I'll come back to you with I think why it. And we'll chat again.
Yeah, I want you to think about it. And next time you call in, I want you to show your face, because I guarantee you're going to be wearing a MAGA hat.
Never. Harris, baby. She's coming. We're going to landslide this thing. I'm excited.
And you know what? You're one of the best guests I've ever had in my life. And you're gay. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Gay men are great.
Yes. See?
Yep.
All right. Go to the bathroom.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
James wants in, and I actually want to talk to James, but I gotta go. Sorry, James. I'm sure James would have been the second best caller in my life. Wow, what a call. That was so good. Thanks to everyone who's hung out the whole time, if you made it. and I'll try to live stream more because this has been so much fun. I've had like my last 2 live streams have provided so much hope, meaning, and purpose for me.